Han Xian. Jian Wushuang murmured the name. He had seen the true saint list after the ranking change, so he knew the origin of Han Xian. Han Xian came from the supreme emotion-forgetting valley. According to the introduction of Han Xian on the true saint list, she was not famous before. Although she was a genius disciple of the supreme emotion-forgetting valley, almost no one in the outside world knew about the existence of this task. It seemed that she had suddenly appeared, but she was very strong. Before the Blood Wave token competition began, she had fought with Thunder God, but in the face-to-face fight, she actually had the upper hand. Therefore, in the new True Saint list, he was ranked 8th, Thunder God is the 9th. From the Supreme Emotion Valley, she is very strong, and she didn't have any fame before. It seems that she suddenly appeared. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He was wondering if Han Xian was his wife, Lung Rushuang. After all, his wife had been brought to the supreme emotion-forgetting valley. Although it had only been a few hundred years, Lung Rushuang in this life was very talented because of her special physique. Even Jian Wushuang could not help but exclaim in admiration. It was not impossible for such an incredible talent to grow to the level of a peak saint under the careful cultivation of a top sect like the Supreme Emotion-Forgetting Valley, and to have the battle strength of the top 10 on the True Saint list. Unfortunately, although I know some information about Han Xian, I don't have a mirror image of her fighting with Thunder God. Nor do I know her exact appearance. Jian Wushuang frowned. She only knew that Han Xian was also a woman and was extremely beautiful, but he did not know the other features of her appearance. No rush. Since Han Xian has obtained a Blood Wave token, she will definitely enter the Blood Wave Palace in the end. I only need one Blood Wave token to meet her in the Blood Wave Palace. Then I will know if she is Shuang or. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. At this moment, buzz! A strange wave suddenly spread out from the void not far away. As the wave spread out, the surrounding void instantly became heated. This is... Jian Wushuang's pupils suddenly shrank. He was not unfamiliar with this wave. Usually, when a treasure was born, it would be accompanied by this special wave. However, this was the Blood Wave realm, so how could any treasure be born? There was only one that would be born, and that was the Blood Wave token, which represented the final opportunity in the Blood Wave realm. A Blood Wave token has been born, and it's not far away. Jian Wushuang immediately smiled. All the immortal saints who came to the Blood Wave realm were eager to get the final opportunity in the Blood Wave realm. Jian Wushuang was no exception. He could not catch up with the birth of the 2 Blood Wave tokens, but now that the third one was born, he was just in time. Go! Without any hesitation, Jian Wushuang rushed toward the source of the fluctuation. When Jian Wushuang appeared at the place where the Blood Wave token was born, the crazy competition for the Blood Wave token had already begun. More than 20 immortal saints had been fighting crazily. Most of them were peak saints, but there were also 2 invincible saints. One of them was being surrounded and killed by everyone. This person is Du Jiu? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He had read that the person who was being surrounded and killed was a famous invincible saint from the divine beginning realm. He was a solitary expert with no background. As for his strength, Du Jiu was only average among the invincible saints, but his life-saving ability was not bad. Otherwise, he would not have been able to survive the attacks of these 20 peak saints. Everyone is attacking Du Jiu. It seems that the Blood Wave token has fallen into Du Jiu's hands, Jian Wushuang said softly. With Du Jiu's life-saving ability, even if the immortal saints joined forces, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. However, as time passes, more and more people will arrive, especially experts on the True Saint list. Unless Du Jiu hands over the Blood Wave token, he will definitely die. But it seems that Du Jiu won't hand over the Blood Wave token so easily. Jian Wushuang smiled, but then a fierce light flashed in his eyes. He quietly floated toward the battlefield ahead. The battlefield ahead was crazy. More than 20 peak saints and an invincible saint were crazily surrounding and killing Du Jiu. Numerous roars reverberated through the entire world. Du Jiu, hand over the Blood Wave token. Hand over the Blood Wave token, or else we will fight to the death. Du Jiu, with your strength, You won't be able to occupy this blood wave token. Numerous voices entered Du Zhou's ears, and his expression was unusually grave. These fellows are really crazy for the blood wave token. Du Zhou was blocking the attacks of these people while secretly circling around. These people alone can't do anything to me. However, the blood wave token has created such a huge commotion. The people around it are probably attracted here. More and more people will rush to the battlefield. Among them, there are some powerful invincible saints. There might even be experts on the true saint list nearby. Therefore, I absolutely can't tangle with them. I have to get rid of them immediately. It seems that I can only use that move. Du Zhou's eyes flickered with coldness. Since he dared to venture into the blood wave realm alone, he had naturally made some preparations. After obtaining the blood wave token, how would he get rid of them? This was something that he had previously planned and made preparations for. Now he was already about to start his own plan to get rid of them. But suddenly, an unprecedented palpitation rose from the bottom of Du Zhou's heart. This palpitation was as if he was about to step into death. This is... Du Zhou turned his head with great difficulty, only to see a blood-like sword light stabbing toward him explosively. When? Du Zhou had no idea who had run behind him and executed this sword light. But this sword light was so fast that he had no time to block it. Chi! The sword light pierced through his divine body. No! Du Zhou let out an unwilling roar, and his divine body collapsed on the spot. However, he was besieged by many experts. It would be disastrous if his divine body was destroyed at this critical moment. Then, before his divine body had completely recovered, the immortal saints who besieged him attacked one after another, not giving him any chance. In just an instant, Du Zhou died. Du Zhou is dead. Quick! Take his interspatial ring. The blood wave token must be in his interspatial ring. The blood wave token is mine. Whoever dares to snatch it from me will be killed. The experts who were originally surrounding and killing Du Zhou immediately went crazy after Du Zhou died. Numerous burning gazes swept across the void in front of them. In the next moment, they froze on the interspatial ring Du Zhou had left behind. Over there, many figures instantly swarmed forward. The one who rushed at the front was the remaining invincible saint. This invincible saint was Saint Purple Dragon. His strength was average among the invincible saints, and he was not famous in the divine beginning realm. However, now that Du Zhou died, he should be the strongest among the experts present. He was also the one who had the best chance to get the blood wave token. We're close. We can get the blood wave token soon. The Saint Purple Dragon with long blood-red hair and a wicked face had an unprecedented gleam in his eyes as he watched Du Zhou's interspatial ring getting closer and closer to him. However, just when he appeared in front of the interspatial ring and was about to take it away, a hand suddenly reached out from the void and grabbed the interspatial ring. Then it was taken back. This scene made Saint Purple Dragon's eyes crack. Put it down! With a roar, Saint Purple Dragon did not care who was in front of him, and he swung the sledgehammer in his hand at lightning speed. The sledgehammer contained an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. It streaked across the space and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. Get lost! Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and the Blood Mountain sword turned into a bolt of blood-red lightning and swept out with a shocking evil aura. It was the peerless sword manual, Xianxia. When Jian Wushuang used the 3 secret skills at the same time, the power of this move was extremely terrifying. Bang! With a loud sound, your Saint Purple Dragon's body shot out, and he sent 2 people flying in the process. After a long while, the Saint Purple Dragon finally managed to stop. Who is it? The Saint Purple Dragon raised his head and looked at the void in front of him. He was sent flying with just 1 blow. He did not know his opponent's actual strength, but in terms of strength and power, he was sure that he had reached the level of the true saint list. With Saint Purple Dragon's gaze, he immediately saw Jian Wushuang's appearance. He looks like Heavenly Sword Marquis? Saint Purple Dragon's pupils could not help shrinking. Heavenly Sword Marquis? The Heavenly Sword Marquis who could not even defeat the experts of the 3 Saint Realms, the Light King, and the 9 Temple Saintess? It's him. He was the one who defeated Du Zhou's divine body in a sneak attack. The Blood Wave token has fallen into the hands of Heavenly Sword Marquis. Many experts on the field looked at Jian Wushuang in unison. Although their eyes were burning with greed for the interspatial ring in Jian Wushuang's hand, no one chose to attack immediately. After all, Heavenly Sword Marquis was too famous. Everyone, Du Zhou's Blood Wave token has fallen into my hands. Do you want to snatch it from me again? Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but there was no fear in his voice. There was only indifference and absolute confidence. Hearing Jian Wushuang's words, these experts frowned deeply. Of course, they coveted the Blood Wave token, but no matter how much they coveted it, they had to have the strength to snatch it. Previously, the Blood Wave token had fallen into Du Zhou's hands. Although Du Zhou's strength was not bad and his life-saving ability was not bad, with so many of them working together, they had the ability and great chance to kill Du Zhou or force him to hand over the Blood Wave token. But against Heavenly Sword Marquis. After all, Heavenly Sword Marquis was an existence that even the combined efforts of the experts of the 3 Saint Realms, Light King, and 9 Temple Saintess could not do anything to. The move of time-space teleportation alone was enough to allow him to run amok in the Blood Wave realm. Now, all the forces in the Divine Beginning realm recognized that he had the best life-saving ability among the Immortal Saints. If they wanted to take the Blood Wave token from Jian Wushuang, they would have to kill him. It was impossible. Therefore, although Jian Wushuang was alone and in front of them, when they saw him take out the Blood Wave token and put it into his interspatial ring, they remained silent. From the beginning to the end, no one made a move. The Saint Purple Dragon was also silent and did not make a move. It seems that you don't intend to fight for it. In that case, I'll take my leave. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and disappeared in a flash. Not long after Jian Wushuang left, whoosh, 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 one figure after another rushed to the battlefield. But by the time they arrived, the fight for the Blood Wave token had ended. What's going on? Who obtained the Blood Wave token? A cold voice came from a middle-aged man in a snow-white robe. There was a flame mark on the middle-aged man's forehead, and he felt extremely violent. Sir, Saint Purple Dragon said with a hint of respect, the Blood Wave token that was just created was taken by the Heavenly Sword Marquis. Heavenly Sword Marquis? Is he Heavenly Sword Marquis of the Temporal Temple? Is he a rank 6 true saint? Flame Emperor asked. Yes, but unlike before, he has reached rank 7 true saint, so his strength is obviously closer. We were trying to kill Du Zhou, but we couldn't do anything to him in a short period of time. Heavenly Sword Marquis killed Du Zhou's divine body with one strike. After Du Zhou died, his interspatial ring fell into Heavenly Sword Marquis' hands. Saint Purple Dragon said, That's troublesome. Flame Emperor frowned. He was ranked 15th on the True Saint list and was very strong. However, no matter how strong he was helpless when he heard that the Blood Wave token had fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands. Although Heavenly Sword Marquis is not very strong, his life-saving ability is widely recognized as number 1. Even if he appeared in front of me and asked me to kill him, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to kill him, let alone get the Blood Wave token. Thinking of this, he could not help but sigh. I have no choice. I can only wait for the next Blood Wave token to appear. He quickly left. At the same time, the third Blood Wave token that appeared fell into the hands of Heavenly Sword Marquis. This news quickly spread throughout the Blood Wave realm. After receiving this news, all the experts within the Blood Wave realm felt a trace of helplessness in their hearts. They no longer had any thoughts toward this Blood Wave token. After all, treasures were meant for the capable. It was a truth that only the capable could obtain treasures. Since the opening of the Blood Wave realm, there had been a total of 3 Blood Wave tokens. One of them had been obtained by Master Ku, the other by Xianxia, and the last one had been obtained by Jian Wushuang. The first 2 people who obtained him were all top 10 experts on the True Saint list, and they all had extraordinary backgrounds. Master Ku came from the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. Han Xian came from the supreme emotion-forgetting valley. She was terrifyingly strong and had an amazing background. Therefore, even though most of the experts in the Bloodwave realm knew that they had a Bloodwave token, they did not want to snatch it from them. Instead, they placed their hopes on the Bloodwave tokens that were about to be born. As for Jian Wushuang, although his strength was not as amazing as the first two, his life-saving ability was enough to make people despair. Naturally, no one would be foolish enough to take the Bloodwave token in his hand. Jian Wushuang paused in an empty space in the Bloodwave realm. Brother Heavenly Marquis, congratulations on getting a Bloodwave token so quickly. Chen Hongzi sent a message. At the same time, Duan Lang, Fei Xue, and Yu sent greetings, but Jian Wushuang did not respond to them. He just chatted with Chen Hongzi. I'm just lucky. I didn't meet a difficult opponent. Jian Wushuang smiled. He was telling the truth. He was lucky to get a Bloodwave token so easily. First of all, he was very close to the place where the Bloodwave token was created. Secondly, there were no strong existences near him. When he rushed to the battlefield, there were only about 20 immortal saints fighting for it, and among them there were only 2 invincible saints with average strength. Under such circumstances, with his shadowless escape art and the blood sword art, of course, he could easily seize the Bloodwave token. But if his luck was a little bad and there was a strong expert nearby, and he rushed to the battlefield at the first moment, then it would be more difficult for him to obtain the Bloodwave token. After all, his life-saving methods were powerful, but in a head-on confrontation, he was indeed not very strong. He could only use his assassination skills. However, if the person who got the Bloodwave token was not Du Jiu but an expert on the True Saint list, then even if Jian Wushuang used the Shadowless Escape technique and the Bloody Sword skill, it would be difficult for him to break the divine body of this expert on the True Saint list, let alone kill him with the help of others. With my current strength, ordinary invincible saints would not be able to resist my sneak attacks if I didn't have the help of an expert on the True Saint list. However, I'm afraid I won't be able to kill an expert on the True Saint list so easily. Jian Wushuang secretly smiled. Then he asked, Chen Hongzi, how are you guys doing? We're not that lucky. We didn't even catch up with the 3 Bloodwave tokens. We haven't even seen any Bloodwave tokens yet, Chen Hongzi said bitterly. Haha, don't worry. There are 10 Bloodwave tokens in total. Even if 3 of them already have owners, there are still 7 left. There's still a lot of opportunities, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. We're not as optimistic as you. Even if we're lucky, only Di Hao might have a chance to get the Bloodwave token, but it's probably impossible for us to get a second one, Chen Hongzi said. Jian Wushuang shrugged, but he agreed with him. Indeed, with the formation of the Temporal Temple and Di Hao's strength, who was ranked 4th on the True Saint list, the experts in the Bloodwave realm would probably tolerate it if he only got a Bloodwave token. However, if a second person among the 5 people in the Temporal Temple, such as Chen Hongzi or Duan Lang, got a Bloodwave token, the other forces would not tolerate it. In the end, it was very likely that these experts would join hands to force the 5 from the Temporal Temple. Let's not talk about this. Brother Heavenly Marquis, since you've already got a Bloodwave token, do you want to join us? If you join us, we'll have a better chance of snatching the Bloodwave token, Chen Hongzi said. Join us? No. Jian Wushuang shook his head slightly. Why? Chen Hongzi was puzzled. Before, he thought that Jian Wushuang was worried that he would implicate them. But now, Jian Wushuang's life-saving ability was recognized as number 1, and the 3 Saint realms no longer had any interest in him in the Bloodwave realm. At this time, Jian Wushuang obviously had nothing to worry about. I still have some private matters to do. If I'm with you, it'll be inconvenient, Jian Wushuang said. Personal matters? Chen Hongzi frowned, but then a fierce light flashed in his eyes. Brother Heavenly Marquis, are you going to cause trouble for the 3 Saint realms? What do you think? Jian Wushuang's voice was calm. Damn, it's true. Chen Hongzi could not help exclaiming. There's nothing strange about it. Am I not allowed to take revenge on the 3 Saint realms just because they attacked me? Jian Wushuang said coldly. You're right. Besides, your ability to save your life is recognized as number 1. At least no one in the Bloodwave realm can kill you, but you can kill the 3 Saint realms. If you use shadowless escape art to assassinate the experts of the three Saint Realms in the chaotic battle for the Blood Wave token, you'll have a high chance of succeeding. Even I can't imagine this scene. If you're more skillful, you can become the dream demon of the three Saint Realm experts in the Blood Wave realm. Ah! Qian Hongzi exclaimed. Jian Wushuang also smiled. What Qian Hongzi said was exactly what he wanted to do. However, unlike what Qian Hongzi knew, he had not only broken through to the rank 7 true Saint Realm, but also mastered the first move of the Bloody Blade swordsmanship, Blood Drop. His assassination skills were more than 10 times stronger than before. Previously, he could at most assassinate peak saints, but now, he could even assassinate invincible saints. And once an assassin like him wandered around in the chaotic battle, it would be a nightmare for the experts of the three great Saint Realms. Oh right, Brother Heavenly Marquis, we have already reported to Lord Hunyuan that the three great Saint Realms had spared no expense to invite the Light King and the 9 Temple Saintess to come and kill you. Lord Hunyuan has also consulted the Bai Xing Hall Master. The Bai Xing Hall Master has said that since the three great Saint Realms are so shameless, our temporal temple doesn't need to show any mercy. In addition, on the 10th day of the battle, when you were in closed-door cultivation, Lord Hunyuan told me that Temple Master Bai Xing had killed 3 principals masters of the destruction Saint Realm in the universe battlefield. Qian Hongzi said, killed 3 principals masters? Jian Wushuang was stunned, and then a smile appeared on his face. After all, the Temporal Temple was one of the 3 freedom alliances in the divine beginning world. They had always been united, so how could they allow the 3 Saint Realms to bully their own experts so unscrupulously? Therefore, in the Blood Wave realm, the 3 Saint Realms had only besieged Jian Wushuang for less than 10 days, but the Temporal Temple had already taken revenge on the 3 Saint Realms and killed the 3 Principals Masters of the Destruction Saint Realm. They were Principals Masters, and they had killed 3 Principals Masters at once. Even the Destruction Saint Realm's principles were painful. It's a good thing that the Temporal Temple is so tough. At least I don't have to worry about anything when I attack the 3 Saint Realms, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Then he sent a message. Qian Hongzi, there's something I need your help with. What is it? Qian Hongzi asked. Although I want to find trouble with the 3 Saint Realms, I don't know where the experts of the 3 Saint Realms are. So, although Jian Wushuang did not finish his words, he had already made his intentions clear. I understand. Isn't it just finding the location of the experts of the 3 Saint Realms? That's easy. The Temporal Temple has a good relationship with many experts of the Divine Beginning Realm. I'll send a message to Lord Hunyuan and he will help you find their location, Qian Hongzi said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded and then looked forward to it. The Temporal Temple was indeed very fast. In less than half a day, Lord Hunyuan personally sent a message to Jian Wushuang and told him the exact location of the experts of the Flame Saint Realm, one of the 3 Saint Realms. The Flame Saint Realm? Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. During the previous attack, the only expert from the Flame Saint Realm was Gu Jinzi. However, Gu Jinzi was not only a top-ranked expert on the True Saint list, but he also had a golden magic array that could seal time and space in an instant. If he had not mastered the move of time-space teleportation, he would have died in that attack. Therefore, Jian Wushuang was also full of killing intent toward the experts of the Flame Saint Realm. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang headed directly toward the experts of the Flame Saint Realm. In a corner of the central area of the Blood Wave realm, many experts of the Flame Saint Realm gathered together. Like the Destruction Saint Realm and the Life and Death Saint Realm, there were 10 people from the Flame Saint Realm who entered the Blood Wave realm. Among them, there were 3 invincible saints besides Gu Jinzi, an expert on the True Saint list. The other 6 were all extremely powerful peak saints. Junior Brother Golden-Eyed, how much of your divine power have you recovered? Gu Jinzi stood in front of a black-haired, golden-eyed young man and asked. Close to 50%. The black-haired, golden-eyed man replied. We will wait for another day. You should recover more than 70% of your divine power as soon as possible, Gu Jinzi said seriously. No problem. The black-haired, golden-eyed man nodded slightly. The golden-eyed saint was quite famous in the divine beginning realm. Although he was only a peak saint, his battle power was enough to fight against the invincible saint. Because he came from a special race, the Golden Crow race, he had some innate advantages. Moreover, his talent was extremely high. In terms of talent, he should be stronger than Gu Jinzi. It was just that he had not cultivated for a long time. Because of this, Gu Jinzi and the others took care of the golden-eyed saint. Not long ago, when the second blood wave token was born, the people of the Flame Saint realm caught up in the battle. In that battle, they were almost able to keep the blood wave token. Unfortunately, the supreme emotion-forgetting Valley's Han Xian appeared in the end. She snatched the blood wave token first. On the way, Han Xian used an extremely terrifying technique, severely injuring the three people of the Flame Saint realm in one go. Among them, the golden-eyed saint lost more than 70% of his divine power. He had almost died. Han Xian from the supreme emotion-forgetting Valley. I don't know where this woman came from, but her technique is really amazing. Gu Jinzi's eyes were cold. He could not help but recall the scene when Han Xian had used that ultimate technique. One had to know that Han Xian's technique had attacked 6 people at the same time. In the end, apart from Gu Jinzi, the other 5 people's divine bodies had all collapsed, and 2 of them didn't belong to the Flame Realm. If such a unique skill only worked on one person, it might even kill the invincible saint directly. What a terrifying woman. If I meet her again in the upcoming battle, I have to be careful, Gu Jinzi muttered to himself. Fortunately, only 3 blood wave tokens have appeared. 1 was obtained by Master Ku, 1 fell into Han Xian's words, and the last one was unexpectedly obtained by Heavenly Sword Marquis. Heavenly Sword Marquis is really lucky. Although he knew that Jian Wushuang had a blood wave token, he did not have any thoughts about Jian Wushuang's life-saving ability. While the 10 people of the Flame Saint realm were quietly recovering their divine power, no one noticed that a figure had quietly appeared near them. The people of the Flame Saint realm are all here. Jian Wushuang used the shadowless escape art and hid in the surrounding void, looking at the 10 people in front of him. He had read the intelligence of the 10 people in the Flame Saint realm. Although they were all very strong, none of them were good at souls, so no one could find him in advance. It seems that they had a big battle not long ago and suffered some losses. 3 of them are not at the peak of their divine power aura, especially the one in the middle. Jian Wushuang's eyes were like torches. He looked directly at the black-haired golden-eyed man in the middle. This person should be the golden-eyed saint. He is a top genius of the Flame Saint realm and was born in the Golden Crow clan. He is very talented. Although he is not very strong, his position in the Flame Saint realm is not inferior to Gu Jinzi. Looking at the golden-eyed saint, the corners of Jian Wushuang's mouth curled up slightly. He wanted to take revenge on the 3 saint realms so that they would feel sorry for him. Killing a top genius like the golden-eyed saint was naturally more effective than killing other peak saints. Moreover, the golden-eyed saint was not in his peak condition, so killing him would be easier. Thinking of this, Jian Wushuang directly approached the 10 people in front of him. Because they were in the center of the blood wave realm and surrounded by a large number of experts, the people of the Flame Saint realm were not too careless. They kept a close eye on their surroundings. If there was any movement around them, they would be startled awake instantly. However, they could not sense Jian Wushuang's shadowless escape skill at all. Without any obstruction, Jian Wushuang quietly appeared behind the golden-eyed saint. Then, he revealed himself and a blood-red sword light suddenly shot out. Blood blade swordsmanship, blood drop first move. When Jian Wushuang suddenly attacked, the golden-eyed saint and the other experts of the Flame Saint realm did not notice him at all. However, Gu Jinzi, who was the core member of the 10-man team, narrowed his eyes. There's killing intent. Be careful. Gu Jinzi immediately shouted. The people of the Flame Saint realm were also startled, and so was the golden-eyed saint. However, by the time the golden-eyed saint reacted, it was already too late. The blood-colored sword light that contained a terrifying power instantly pierced through the golden-eyed saint's divine body. Then the power suddenly erupted. Together with the 3 drops of cold blood poison, it instantly destroyed 50% of the golden-eyed saint's remaining divine power. It was completely annihilated. The golden-eyed saint's eyes were wide open, and they were filled with terror. He could already feel his life force fading away. Am I going to die? This was the golden-eyed saint's last thought. He withdrew his sword, and the golden-eyed saint's voice was completely cut off. The Flame Saint Realm's top genius, whose status was comparable to Gu Jinzi's, had died just like that. This scene was also witnessed by the remaining 9 people of the Flame Saint Realm. When they saw the golden-eyed saint being killed, they were instantly shocked and furious. Golden-eyed junior brother. Gu Jinzi's eyes turned scarlet. Before entering the Blood Wave Realm, the highest level of the Flame Saint Realm had warned him to take good care of the golden-eyed saint. After all, the golden-eyed saint's talent was obvious, and he was from the Golden Crow clan. This time he would enter the Blood Wave Realm. It was only for training, and he did not want to obtain the final opportunity. But now, the golden-eyed saint had been killed right under his nose. Gu Jinzi's body trembled, and his scarlet eyes instantly locked onto the figure who had ambushed the golden-eyed saint. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Gu Jinzi's teeth were chattering. In fact, even without seeing Jian Wushuang's face, he had already guessed that he was the one who had attacked. Jian Wushuang, who had mastered the shadowless escape art, was probably the only person in the entire Blood Wave realm who could silently appear beside them and perform a fatal attack on the golden-eyed saint without them noticing. Gu Jinzi, long time no see. How have you been? Jian Wushuang stood in the void where the golden-eyed saint had died and looked at Gu Jinzi with interest. Although he was surrounded by 9 people from the Flame Saint realm, he did not care at all, but he did not seem to care. Heavenly Sword Marquis. How dare you kill my golden-eyed junior brother? Gu Jinzi looked at Jian Wushuang. His eyes seemed to spit fire. Around the other 8 flame of the Sanctum of the Strong are also furious. Haha. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to kill just one golden-eyed saint. But all of you. Jian Wushuang smiled strangely and disappeared again in front of the 9 people. Oh no! Gu Jinzi's face suddenly changed. Heavenly Sword Marquis escape art is very strange. Without an expert who specializes in soul, we can't sense his location. If we fight with him, we will only become his living targets. Be careful of the surroundings. Don't separate. 2 or 3 people gather together. Don't give him the chance to sneak attack you from behind or from both sides. Gu Jinzi's low voice resounded across the sky. The people of the Flame Saint realm were not stupid. They immediately gathered as Gu Jinzi said. There were 9 of them in total. At this moment, they gathered in a triangular formation of 3 people so that they did not have to worry about Jian Wushuang suddenly appearing behind them or on either side. Jian Wushuang could only attack them from the front. If Jian Wushuang attacked them from the front, they would be able to react the moment their bodies were revealed. Then, they would naturally be able to block Jian Wushuang's attack from the front. After all, most assassins attacked from the back without the slightest reaction from their opponents. However, if an assassin attacked from the front, the chances of success would naturally not be so great. Haha! You were quite smart. Jian Wushuang hid in the surrounding void and looked at the 9 people of the Flame Saint realm gathering in groups of 3. He could not help but smile in his heart. Gu Jinzi's first response to his sneak attack was indeed good. He was not an expert in the soul realm. If he had not mastered the bloody sword skill before, he would not have been able to deal with the 9 people of the Flame Saint realm. Unfortunately, he was no longer as strong as before. Do you think I can't succeed in a frontal attack? What a joke. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. His figure suddenly flashed and he appeared in front of a saint at the peak of the Flame Saint realm. This saint was a burly middle-aged man with a huge axe in his hand. He was fully focused and on guard. Buzz! When Jian Wushuang appeared in front of the burly middle-aged man, the burly middle-aged man immediately reacted. As soon as Jian Wushuang appeared, the Blood Mountain sword turned into a blood-red stream of light and pierced toward his heart. Get lost! The burly middle-aged man shouted and swung the huge axe in his hand. The huge axe was so powerful that if it hit the Blood Mountain sword, it would be enough to force Jian Wushuang back. However, what? The burly middle-aged man suddenly widened his eyes, because he found that the blood-red flowing light was too fast. It was faster than he had imagined. The moment he swung the axe, the blood-red flowing light brushed past his axe and directly hit his divine body. The burly middle-aged man's divine body immediately suffered a huge impact. Although his divine body did not completely collapse, it had already collapsed by 80% and consumed nearly 40% of his divine power. After this sword attack, Jian Wushuang disappeared again. His axe attack did not have any effect at all. I can't block it. I can't block his swordsmanship. His swordsmanship is too fast. The burly middle-aged man shouted at the first moment. How could it be? When Gu Jinzi and the others heard this, their faces were extremely unsightly. Since they could not find Jian Wushuang at all and could only become living targets, the best way to deal with Jian Wushuang was for the three of them to form a triangle. Next, they only needed to send a message to an expert who was good at soul to deal with Jian Wushuang. But who would have thought that they would not be able to withstand Jian Wushuang's direct attack? No! A terrified roar sounded again. Another peak saint in the Flame Saint realm was pierced through by Jian Wushuang's attack and his divine body collapsed. Although the peak saint's divine body was quickly restored, more than 60% of his divine power was consumed in an instant. His sword technique is too terrifying. The peak saint, whose divine body had just been reassembled, had a terrified expression on his face. His mind was also recalling the scene just now, the sword that had suddenly stabbed out. He had clearly seen his opponent's sword, but he still had not been able to block that sword technique. In an instant, his divine body had been destroyed by his opponent. More than 60% of my divine power has been consumed. If I use another sword attack, the peak saint thought. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang, who had disappeared, reappeared in front of him. The same sword light came at him from the same direction. It's over. This thought arose in the heart of the peak saint. In the next moment, his divine body was destroyed again. This time, his remaining divine power was also destroyed, and his life was immediately cut off. In just a moment, another peak saint in the camp of the Flame Saint realm died under Jian Wushuang's sword. Junior brother Qing. Everyone in the Flame Saint realm, including Gu Jinzi, had a drastic change in expression. Previously, they were completely unprepared when Jian Wushuang killed the gold-eyed saint. But now they had already made a response, but Jian Wushuang still easily killed a peak saint. This scene, it made the remaining 8 people in the Flame Saint realm panic. We can't let him continue his unscrupulous assassination. Otherwise, at least half of us will die at his hands. We must think of a countermeasure immediately. Gu Jinzi thought quickly and thought of a countermeasure. However, facing Jian Wushuang's terrifying assassination ability, he really could not think of any solution. Even if he wanted to invite an expert who was good at soul, it would be too late. There's no way. Without the help of an expert who is good at soul, we will only be passively beaten and constantly assassinated by Heavenly Sword Marquis. Moreover, there are only a few of us who can block his assassination. If this continues, all the peak saints in the Flame Saint realm, except for a few invincible saints, will probably die here. Thinking of this, Gu Jinzi's face darkened and he immediately made a decision. Run! Everyone, scatter and run! Gu Jinzi shouted. Hearing this shout, the remaining experts of the Flame Saint realm were stunned. Run, or scatter and run. Indeed, if they scattered and ran now, Jian Wushuang would not be able to split up, no matter how powerful he was. At most, he could only chase after one person, and Gu Jinzi could also follow him to protect that person. This was indeed enough to deal with Jian Wushuang's crazy assassination. However, the 10-man camp of the Flame Saint realm had always been able to run amok in the Blood Wave realm. When ordinary experts saw them, they would usually avoid them in advance. They did not dare to provoke them at all. Moreover, with their lineup, even if they encountered the top experts on the True Saint list, such as the Light King or the Heavenly Devil Son, they would still be able to retreat calmly even if they could not defeat them. But now, their 10-man team, just because they met the Heavenly Sword Marquis, a rank 7 True Saint who did not even have the strength of the True Saint list, they could only choose to scatter and flee in a sorry state? How could they be willing to do this? How could they be willing? A mere rank 7 True Saint had forced them to flee in such a sorry state. If this were to spread out, how would they lose face? It was as if they could see through everyone's thoughts. Gu Zhenzi shouted again. At this time, there's no need to worry about face. Survival is more important. Everyone, listen to me and scatter. Junior brother Kong, join hands with me and think of a way to stop Heavenly Sword Marquis. Okay. A tall, simple-looking man more than 2 meters tall replied and immediately rushed toward Gu Zhenzi. Although the other 6 people of the Flame Saint realm were somewhat unwilling, they were more fearful of Jian Wushuang's assassination ability. At this moment, they did not hesitate and fled in all directions. They actually chose to flee in different directions? Jian Wushuang could not help being surprised when he saw this scene, but after thinking about it carefully, he felt relieved. Indeed, in the current situation, if the experts of the Flame Saint realm did not flee in different directions, they would only be killed by him one by one. When the experts who specialized in souls arrived, he could kill at least 2 or 3 more people. But now, if the experts of the Flame Saint realm chose to flee in different directions, he could only kill 1 more person. Moreover, with Gu Zhenzi and Kong blocking him, it was different whether he could kill 1 more person. Gu Zhenzi and Kong. Gu Zhenzi is ranked at the top of the True Saint list. Naturally, he is not afraid of my assassination. Kong is also a famous invincible saint. Not only is he very strong, he is close to the True Saint list. His life-saving ability is also very powerful. I can't do anything to him either. They can stop me at ease. I can only choose one of the 6 fleeing people to kill. Jian Wushuang, who was hiding in the void, narrowed his eyes. In the next moment, he went after one of the 6 people. Even if he went after them, he also used the shadowless escape art. Gu Zhenzi and Kong still did not know Jian Wushuang's movements. If I'm not mistaken, Heavenly Sword Marquis must have chosen 1 person to go after him, Gu Zhenzi said in a deep voice. I see. But which one of the 6 did he choose? Kong frowned. Among the 6, there are 2 invincible saints. I don't think the Heavenly Sword Marquis would dare to go after them. As for the remaining 4 peak saints, Junior Sister Yu's ability to survive is relatively weak. Junior Brother Ape King was seriously injured by him just now, and his divine power has been greatly depleted. The 2 of them are relatively easy to kill. The Heavenly Sword Marquis might have chosen one of them to go after them. Gu Zhenzi's eyes were cold. Junior Apprentice Brother Kong, I'll go to Junior Apprentice Sister Yu's place. You go to Junior Apprentice Brother Ape King's place. Remember, no matter what, we must not let this Heavenly Sword Marquis kill another one of us. All right, the honest man Kong nodded heavily. Immediately, he and Gu Zhenzi respectively headed in the direction where Junior Apprentice Sister Yu and Ape King were fleeing. At the same time that Gu Zhenzi and Kong left this piece of void, there were some figures standing in the void not far away. The 10 people of the Flame Saint realm were in the central area of the Blood Wave realm. Many experts of the Blood Wave realm were gathered here. Although this place was relatively remote, there were still some cultivators around. When Jian Wushuang attacked the Flame Saint realm, the surrounding experts naturally noticed it. They also saw the result of this battle. After seeing this battle, most of them were stunned. Hey, did you guys see what happened just now? A skinny elder with black hair asked in astonishment. Of course we saw it, a purple-robed woman said in shock. He single-handedly forced the 10 experts of the Flame Saint realm to flee in all directions. This Heavenly Sword Marquis is really something. He is indeed powerful, especially with his assassination methods. Without an expert who specializes in the soul present, Heavenly Sword Marquis could kill the experts of the Flame Saint realm one by one without any scruples. The people of the Flame Saint realm reacted quickly and knew that they had to flee in all directions. If they didn't flee, several more people would definitely die. This is the Flame Sanctum. Gu Zhenzi, Kong, which one of them isn't a famous expert? With their lineup, they could do whatever they wanted in the Blood Wave realm. But in the end, they were forced to such a state by Heavenly Sword Marquis alone. TSK. And it seems that the Heavenly Sword Marquis hasn't given up yet. He's still chasing after the people of the Flame Saint realm. I wonder if the person he's targeting will be able to survive from his hands. The experts who saw the scene just now were all sighing. In the vast void, a figure was flying forward at high speed. While flying, he kept turning his head to look behind him, but he did not see a single person. Heavenly Sword Marquis must have gone to kill others. The long-haired man with a hooked nose muttered to himself. He thought so not because he did not see Jian Wushuang, but mainly because he was confident in his own strength. Among the 6 people in the Flame Saint realm, Gu Jinzi and Kong could easily face Jian Wushuang. Besides them, there were 2 other invincible saints, including this man with a hooked nose. As an invincible saint, he had a good life-saving ability. He believed that Heavenly Sword Marquis should not be so stupid as to target him. After all, he was not so easy to kill. However, the hawk-nosed man did not know that Jian Wushuang was following him closely not far behind him. That was right. When the 6 people of the Flame Saint realm were fleeing in different directions, the hawk-nosed man was Jian Wushuang's first target. He wanted to kill the invincible saint. Lan Ying, one of the invincible saints of the Flame Saint realm, is very powerful. During the battle for the second Blood Wave token a few days ago, he fought with an expert who ranked lower on the True Saint list. Although he was suppressed, he could not defeat him in a short time. In terms of strength, although Lan Ying is not as strong as the expert on the True Saint list, he is still a very powerful existence among the invincible saints. Moreover, he has both offense and defense. His attack power is very strong, and his body protection ability is also very good. However, his weakness is also very obvious. He is not good at speed. Jian Wushuang knew the information about Lan Ying like the back of his hand. At this moment, he could not help but smile. Gu Jinzi, Kong, and Lan Ying did not expect that he would target Jian Wushuang, because Lan Ying was very strong and difficult to deal with. However, Jian Wushuang had to do the opposite. He is strong, but his speed is too slow. If I want to assassinate him, he will be treated as a living target. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold, and he immediately approached Lan Ying. Lan Ying seemed to be completely sure that Jian Wushuang would not find him, so he stopped and did not move forward. However, at the moment when Lan Ying relaxed, Jian Wushuang had already made his move. He quietly appeared behind Lan Ying. Without the latter noticing, Jian Wushuang had already made his move. I wonder who the Heavenly Sword Marquis is targeting. I hope Gu Jinzi and Senior Brother Kong can stop him. We've already lost 2 people in this encounter with the Heavenly Sword Marquis. If he kills another one, the losses will be too great. Lan Ying sighed softly. However, the blood-red sword light behind him was less than a meter away from him. At this moment, Lan Ying suddenly woke up. This killing intent is from Heavenly Sword Marquis. Lan Ying reacted, but he did not even have time to turn around, let alone block Jian Wushuang's sword. He could only let the blood-red sword light stab at his divine body. However, just as the blood-red sword light was about to touch his divine body, a layer of blue crystal immediately appeared on the surface of his body. The blue crystal instantly covered his entire body. When the blood-red sword light pierced the blue crystal, a terrifying power suddenly erupted. The shocking power contained in the sword immediately penetrated the blue crystal. However, the sword light was immediately blocked by the protective armor that Lan Ying was wearing. Whoosh! The power of the sword light was completely exhausted, but it did not penetrate the protective armor. It only left a clear white mark on the armor. At this moment, Lan Ying suddenly turned around and stared at Jian Wushuang with his eyes that seemed to spew flames. How dare you chase after me? How dare you? Lan Ying's shocked and angry voice resounded in the sky. A blood-red long stick rushed toward Jian Wushuang in an instant. Jian Wushuang frowned and immediately retreated. In the next moment, he disappeared in front of Lan Ying again. Humph! Coward! Lan Ying cursed. Jian Wushuang, who had hidden in the surrounding void, looked at the white mark on Lan Ying's protective armor and sensed the divine power aura on Lan Ying's body. His eyes narrowed. Lan Ying is really like the information. He is both offensive and defensive. Not only is his attack powerful, but his protective ability is also very strong. I just used the first move of Blood Drop to pierce his divine body without any hindrance, but it still failed to pierce through his protective armor, so I can't seriously injure him at the first moment. Jian Wushuang was also a little surprised. Although he did not injure Lan Ning immediately, judging from the latter's divine power aura, it seemed that Lan Ning had used up some of his divine power. Obviously, although the attack did not pierce through the armor, the terrifying power contained in the sword still penetrated through the protective armor and entered Lan Ying's body. It caused some damage to his divine body and also caused Lan Ning to use up some of his divine power. Although it did not consume much divine power, which was estimated to be only 1/40th of his entire divine power, it still gave Jian Wushuang hope of killing Lan Ning. I deliberately followed Lan Ning for a period of time and waited until I was far away from the battlefield. Now, Lan Ning is a certain distance away from Gu Jinzi and the empty place. It will take them some time to get here. During this time, I must kill Lan Ning. Jian Wushuang's eyes revealed a shocking killing intent. In the next moment, endless power of ice and fire swept out. A large amount of ice and fire power combined together and pressed down on Lan Ning in all directions. Even with Lan Ying's strength, he was greatly suppressed at this moment. A domain-type treasure? And it's of a very high level. Lan Ying's eyes were cold. Humph, so what if I have a domain-type treasure? Even if I'm standing here, you're not qualified to kill me. Is that so? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and directly attacked. Swish! The blood-red sword light flashed again. When Lan Ning was close to him, he could no longer block the sword. However, he was already prepared. He did not want to wave the long stick in his hand to block Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship. Instead, he fully exerted his protective ability. His body was covered with a thick layer of blue crystal. The blue crystal was extremely sturdy and covered his entire body like a piece of armor. Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship attacked him. First, he had to face the obstacle of the blue crystal. Inside the blue crystal, Lan Ning was still wearing a body protection armor, which was a top-notch holy treasure. In addition, he had cultivated a body-refining secret skill and had a powerful divine body. Because of this, he was very confident in his protective skills. Clang! The sword light attacked. Although it penetrated the outer layer of the blue crystal, when it hit the protective armor that Lan Ning was wearing, it made a sound like metal colliding. Jian Wushuang's sword still failed to break through the defense of Lan Ying's body, so the damage to Lan Ning was limited. Haha, Heavenly Sword Marquis, your assassination skills are very good, but your strength is too weak. Your swordsmanship is just scratching my divine body. Lan Ning sneered. Scratching? Then I'll scratch you a little longer. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and then attacked again. Even without the suppression of the realm, Lan Ning could hardly resist Jian Wushuang's attacks, let alone being suppressed by the ice-fire swimming dragon ruler. His speed was greatly reduced, and he had no chance to fight back. He could only rely on his body protection to withstand Jian Wushuang's attacks again and again. Although Jian Wushuang's attacks could not penetrate the surface of his body, his divine body was also damaged by the repeated attacks. Naturally, his divine power was also being consumed. In just a short while, Jian Wushuang had already attacked nearly 10 times. Even if Lan Ning immediately swallowed some elixirs to recover his divine power, he had already consumed more than 10% of his divine power. Rat, how dare you fight me face to face? Lan Ning was furious. Face to face? Haha, I'm not as stupid as you. Jian Wushuang sneered, but his hands did not stop moving. Lan Ying's face was extremely ugly. At the same time, he had sent a message to Gu Jinzi and Kong, telling them to come over immediately. When Gu Jinzi and Kong found out that Jian Wushuang's target was Lan Ning, they were both shocked. How dare Heavenly Sword Marquis? Instead of looking for the Four Peak Saints, he found Lan Ning, who has excellent body protection ability. Does he want to assassinate an invincible saint with excellent body protection ability? Gu Jinzi and Kong were both shocked and angry. Don't worry about it. Since Heavenly Sword Marquis has his eyes on junior brother Lan Ning, it's better than the others. With junior brother Lan Ying's strength, Heavenly Sword Marquis can't do anything to him in a short time. Let's hurry over, Gu Jinzi said. Immediately, Gu Jinzi and Kong rushed toward Jian Wushuang and Lan Ning as fast as they could. In the vast void, Lan Ning, who was covered in a layer of blue crystals, stood in the center. At this moment, He had become Jian Wushuang's living target. As Jian Wushuang attacked again and again, he had no ability to resist. He could only rely on his powerful body protection to hold on. However, his divine power continued to be consumed. As time passed, Lan Ying's divine power became less and less. 80%, 70%, 50%. When Lan Ying only had 30% of his divine power left, he finally panicked. I only have 30% of my divine power left. I can't hold on much longer. Why aren't Gu Zhenzi and Kong here yet? Lan Ying was very nervous. He was nervous, but Jian Wushuang was still focused on killing him, constantly causing him harm. Sword after sword, Jian Wushuang kept attacking him. Each sword was a drop of blood move. In fact, he had been using shadowless escape art since the beginning, and now he was using the drop of blood sword art to kill again and again. If it were anyone else, they would have used up most of their divine power before killing Lan Ying, but Jian Wushuang was different. His own divine power was vast, and all the immortal saints in the divine beginning realm could only look up to him. For an assassination like this, the consumption of his divine power was insignificant. He could continue to kill without restraint. But Lan Ying obviously could not hold on for long. 30% of his divine power was gradually reduced to 20%, or even less than 20%. Still not coming? Still not coming? Lan Ying roared crazily in his heart, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. At this time, he did not put all his hopes on Gu Zhenzi and Kong. He was also trying to find a way to escape, however. His speed was far inferior to Jian Wushuang's, and the latter would not give him a chance to escape. His divine power was becoming less and less, and he even had only 10% left. At this time, Gu Zhenzi and Kong finally appeared in his sight. Finally! Lan Ying was overjoyed. Jian Wushuang, who was hiding in the void, also saw Gu Zhenzi and Kong. Along with them was a black-robed elder with messy hair. The black-robed elder's eyes were flickering with strange flames. He also exuded an evil aura. This person doesn't ring a bell. However, he has a very strong soul fluctuation. It seems that he is an expert who specializes in soul, and an invincible saint. Jian Wushuang frowned. He also understood why Gu Zhenzi and Kong were slow to arrive. It seemed that they had tried to rope in the black-robed elder. After all, in the face of his assassination, without an expert who specialized in soul, it was indeed too passive. Sorry to trouble you. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. He had wanted to kill Lan Ying before Gu Zhenzi and Kong arrived, but he did not expect that Lan Ying's protective ability was much stronger than he had imagined. Now that Gu Zhenzi and Kong had arrived, with an invincible expert who specialized in the soul present, it was obviously very difficult for him to kill Lan Ying again. However, the three saint realms have been fighting with me for a long time. There is absolutely no way to resolve it. However, they are, after all, the three supreme overlords of the divine beginning realm. In the outside world, unless I break through to become a rule master and become strong enough to be feared by the three saint realms, it will be difficult for me to find an opportunity like this again. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. This opportunity was indeed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. After all, this was the Blood Wave realm, a place where the principal's masters could not enter. He could walk unhindered here, and was absolutely invincible. Here, he was not afraid of the three great saint realm coming to kill him. Instead, the experts of the three great saint realms should be worried that he would take the initiative to look for trouble. After all, the people who entered the Blood Wave realm from the three great saint realms were all geniuses. Many of them had the opportunity to become principal's masters in the future. If he could severely injure the geniuses of the three saint realms in the Blood Wave realm, even the three saint realms would feel distressed. I have been in conflict with the three saint realms for a long time. It's not the first time that the three saint realms have come to kill me, but I have been passively running for my life. I only want to survive. But this time, the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is in front of me. I have the opportunity to kill the experts of the three saint realms without any scruples. How could I miss such an opportunity? Jian Wushuang's eyes were slightly red. Lan Ying must die. Even if Gu Zhenzi and Kong are here, and there is an invincible saint who specializes in soul. I will kill him. Jian Wushuang had made up his mind. The moment Lan Ning approached Gu Jinzi and Kong, he also made his move. He is there. The evil-looking black-clothed elder let out a hoarse voice and pointed at the void not far behind Lan Ning. Gu Jinzi and Kong instantly locked onto him. You still want to kill me? You're courting death. Gu Jinzi's eyes seemed to spit fire. His speed suddenly increased. Like a golden beam of light, he instantly appeared behind Lan Ning. Then, a large amount of golden light spread out like a huge golden sun. Gu Jinzi's entire body also became glittering with golden light. He was like a golden divine god. With him blocking in front of Lan Ning, he believed that Jian Wushuang would definitely not be able to break through. However, at this moment Jian Wushuang directly revealed himself and attacked. He did not intend to use the shadowless escape art to bypass Gu Jinzi. Instead, he directly waved his sword in front of Gu Jinzi. Moreover, he was very slow, as if he was casually waving his sword. Ridiculous! Gu Jinzi was full of disdain for the sword that Jian Wushuang was about to swing. However, the moment Jian Wushuang swung his sword, buzz, a strong pressure from the life level suddenly came. This pressure ignored the strength of both sides and the realm level. This was the pressure from the origin of life. There was no way to resist this pressure. How is this possible? Gu Jinzi's eyes were wide open, and he was completely stunned by this supreme life-level pressure. At this moment, he looked at Jian Wushuang as if he saw the supreme and omnipotent Saint Master of the Flame Saint Realm. Terrified, trembling, terrified, he could not help but want to kneel down. He was completely stunned as he watched Jian Wushuang's sword strike directly toward his head. Bang! With a loud sound, the golden light on Gu Jinzi's body instantly dimmed, and his golden divine body was directly split into two by the ordinary sword light. His divine body collapsed on the spot, and even his divine power was evaporated. More than 80% of it was evaporated at this moment. Yes, that was 80%. One sword attack caused him, an expert ranked near the top of the true saint list, to lose 8 layers of divine power. Moreover, the power of this sword attack did not disappear just like that. Instead, it carried a shocking power and continued to slash at Lan Ning behind Gu Jinzi. Even Gu Jinzi was unable to block this sword attack head-on. Lan Ning, who only had 10% of his divine power left, had no room to struggle under this sword attack. He did not even have the time to scream before he was annihilated by the sword light. The remaining divine power was annihilated on the spot, and his life was instantly cut off. It was only at this moment that the sword light completely dissipated. Buzz. Gu Jinzi's divine body was reassembled, but after it was reassembled, his face was filled with fear. He stared at Jian Wushuang as if he was staring at a demon. Behind him, Kong and the black-clothed elder with an evil aura were also staring at Jian Wushuang in shock. Jian Wushuang's sword was so terrifying that he could kill Lan Ning after destroying Gu Jinzi's divine body and 80% of his divine power? How is this possible? You. Gu Jinzi pointed at Jian Wushuang, not knowing what to say. As for Jian Wushuang himself, he looked very calm. He did not pay attention to Gu Jinzi, Kong, and the evil elder. Instead, he looked up at the blood-red sky. The blood-red sky was still very calm, and there was no movement. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang felt relieved. As I guessed, the blood wave realm is very special. Even the power of the will of heaven cannot touch it. I can use my most powerful trump cards in the blood wave realm. Jian Wushuang calmed down. He had cultivated until now. Although he was not very strong, and any expert on the true saint list could easily suppress him, he had a lot of trump cards, like the shadowless escape skill and the assassination of the bloody sword skill, like the 6 paths of reincarnation secret skill, and the mountain and river map, which was a treasure. He had never used it. However, when it came to his trump card, his strongest trump card was not these things. Instead, it was the life-level pressure given by his perfect chaotic creature, and the heaven-cleaving technique created by his master Xianxia. Ever since he had mastered the heaven-cleaving technique, he had only used it once. That was when he was in the Golden Crow 9 realms. When the supreme emotion-forgetting valley wanted to take Lung Rushuang away, he was furious. At that time, he was in the supreme divinity realm. He directly used the heaven-cleaving skill to kill the group of immortal saints in the supreme emotion-forgetting valley. However, once he used the heaven-cleaving skill, the power of the will of heaven descended and forced him to flee. Indeed, the heaven-cleaving skill and the power of the life level were his strongest trump cards. However, once he used this move, it would immediately attract the power of the will of heaven. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had been cautious when he was in the divine beginning realm. Until the last moment, he had never thought of using this trump card. But now, in the blood wave realm, Jian Wushuang had already guessed that the power of the will of heaven could not be involved here. After all, if the power of the will of heaven could be involved in the blood wave world, the three saint realms would certainly be able to involve their forces. They had long treated the blood wave realm as their own backyard, so they would not share it with the forces of the divine beginning realm. Because he had guessed this, Jian Wushuang dared to use the heaven-cleaving skill in the blood wave realm. Not only did he kill Lan Ying, but he also severely injured Gu Jinzi. Now that Lan Ying was dead, Jian Wushuang could not help looking at Gu Jinzi, Kong, and the evil elder. However, when Gu Jinzi noticed Jian Wushuang's gaze, it was as if he saw the smile of the Grim Reaper. His whole body trembled, and an unprecedented fear appeared in his eyes. "Run!" A roar came out of Gu Jinzi's mouth. Not only him, but also Kong and the evil elder had lost the courage to stay. They did not even dare to look directly at Jian Wushuang's goal. The three of them turned around and fled without hesitation. They even showed their fastest speed as they fled, afraid of being chased by Jian Wushuang. In the blink of an eye, the three of them had disappeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was stunned by this scene, but he realized it after thinking about it. After all, he had just used the heaven-cleaving skill. After using it, he had severely injured Gu Jinzi and destroyed 80% of his divine power. Who was Gu Jinzi? He was an expert on the true saint list, and he had always been in the top 10. However, because of the sudden appearance of several experts in the blood wave realm, he was only ranked below the top 10. However, his battle strength was still extremely strong. Such an expert, no matter how strong he was, could hardly destroy his divine body in one move, let alone 80% of his divine power in one move. Gu Jinzi was indeed frightened by Jian Wushuang's sword attack. He could not care less about Lan Ying's death. He was worried about his own death, so he fled at once. Since Gu Jinzi was like this, Kong and the evil elder were even more terrified and had to flee. Gu Jinzi must have been scared out of his wits by my sword just now. However, I'm afraid he doesn't know that my sword just now was not easy to perform, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. The heaven-cleaving skill was his strongest trump card and also his most powerful skill. It was certainly not easy to perform it. When he was in the outside world, he had to take into account the power of the will of heaven and the experts of the three saint realms to perform this move. In the blood wave realm, although he did not have to care about the power of the will of heaven, it was still not easy for him to perform this move. After all, it was the most powerful magic power created by his master Xianxia, who had combined the unique constitution of his perfect chaotic creature. Under normal circumstances, Jian Wushuang could only use this move easily when he reached the level of Principal's Master. However, when he was at the level of the Immortal Saint, when he used this move, the burden on his divine body, divine power, and even his own consciousness was shocking. For example, although he had killed Lan Ying and severely injured Gu Jinzi, he had used up 40% of his divine power. With his vast divine power, he had used up 40% of his divine power. It was obvious how much divine power this move had consumed. It was also a huge burden on his consciousness. It was already difficult for him to use such a trump card once, so it was impossible for him to use it again. However, Gu Jinzi did not know this. Although he had sensed that Jian Wushuang's divine power had been consumed, it was not too much. He thought that Jian Wushuang could use the sword again, so he immediately fled in panic. Unfortunately, my realm is still too low. The sword just now could only consume 80% of Gu Jinzi's divine power. If I were stronger, I wouldn't need to be much stronger. As long as I reach the peak of the rank 7 true saint, I would be able to kill Gu Zhenzi with that sword. Jian Wushuang felt it was a pity. How could he kill Gu Zhenzi, who was ranked at the top of the true saint list, with one strike? Even the Light King could not do it. Even an ordinary principles master might not be able to do it. However, Jian Wushuang might be able to do it once he reached the peak of the rank 7 true saint realm. Could not be helped. The heaven-cleaving skill was too terrifying. Moreover, Jian Wushuang was barely able to use the heaven-cleaving skill at the moment. The power he could unleash was probably only 1% of this divine ability. Only when he became a principles master and truly became a top expert would he be able to unleash this divine ability perfectly. He would have been able to pull it off perfectly. Although it's a little cold, in any case, this attack killed 3 experts of the Flame Saint realm, including the Invincible Saint, Lan Ying, and severely injured Gu Zhenzi. He should spend the rest of the time recovering his divine power and won't be able to participate in the fight for the Blood Wave token. This is already very good. Jian Wushuang smiled. He was quite satisfied with his assassination. He let out a sigh of relief and soon left. While Jian Wushuang was using the heaven-splitting skill to severely wound Gu Zhenzi and kill Lan Ying, a huge palace stood quietly in the center of the Blood Wave realm. It was not only huge but also extremely ancient. It also exuded an extremely ancient aura. The palace was surrounded by a layer of special magic formation that blocked everyone from entering. This palace was the Blood Wave Palace. Blood Wave Palace was the real opportunity of the Blood Wave realm. Many experts in the Blood Wave realm were desperately fighting for the Blood Wave token because it was the only ticket to enter the Blood Wave Palace. As long as one obtained the Blood Wave token and entered the Blood Wave realm, 99% of them could become the Principles Master. However, no one knew what secret the Blood Wave Palace had. In the deepest part of the Blood Wave Palace, in a dark void where there was no light at all, a consciousness that had been sleeping for an unknown number of years suddenly woke up. This ripple, it's a ripple of life force, and it's at the perfect level? An ancient and distant voice rang out from the very end of the dark void. It's been a very, very long time since I've seen a perfect level life form. The last time I saw one was a few chaos cycles ago. But this time I didn't expect it to be here. And this perfect level life form is only at the saint level. Interesting. This is too interesting. The voice carried a hint of surprise and melancholy as it slowly calmed down within the dark void. Not long after, the dark void once again descended into its usual deathly stillness. It was as though that strand of consciousness had never existed. Within Blood Wave Temple it was as calm as ever. In the void, 3 figures fled in a sorry state for a long time before stopping. Deacon Yun, did Heavenly Sword Marquis catch up with us? Gu Zhenzi's voice was still filled with a trace of fear. No, the evil-looking black-clothed elder had been using his soul power to sense his back, but he did not discover Jian Wushuang's existence. That's good. Gu Zhenzi finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, he immediately thought of Jian Wushuang's terrifying sword attack. That sword attack had frightened him, suffocated him, and made him completely unable to resist. That sword attack was too terrifying. It felt even more terrifying than the full-strength attack of the Principles Master. Didn't they say that the power of the Principles Master was limited in the Blood Wave realm? But how could Heavenly Sword Marquis use such a terrifying technique? Moreover, he clearly has such an incredible trump card. Why didn't he use it when he was besieged by the 3 Saint Realms? Gu Zhenzi could not understand. He could not understand. What he did not know was that the Blood Wave realm restricted the power of Principles Masters and above. This was indeed the truth. But the restriction referred to the power interference of Principles Masters. For example, many people had some specially refined token or other means. For example, Jian Wushuang had the command talismans personally refined by the 2 Palace Masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, which could be used to save his life. However, he could not use the 2 command talismans in the Blood Wave realm. However, if the Immortal Saint could exert the power of the Principles Master, he would not be restricted by the Blood Wave realm. After all, no matter how powerful the Immortal Saint was, he was only an Immortal Saint, not a Principles Master. Therefore, the power of Jian Wushuang's strongest trump card was not limited. As for why Jian Wushuang did not use this trump card before, it was easy to understand. After all, when he was surrounded and killed by the experts of the three saint realms, he was not as strong as he was now. At that time, he was only a rank 6 true saint. Even if he used the heaven-cleaving skill at all costs, the power he displayed was certainly not as terrifying as it was now. At that time, the Light King was also present, and he was from the three saint realms. If he had used the heaven-cleaving skill at that time, Jian Wushuang had no doubt that the Light King could have used his tyrannical strength to block him head-on. Since using the heaven-cleaving skill at that time would not change anything, there was no need for Jian Wushuang to use it. After all, it was not easy to use the heaven-cleaving skill. It's meaningless to talk about it now. In short, the strength and skills of Heavenly Sword Marquis are far beyond our imagination. If he keeps watching us, we will be in big trouble, Kong said in a low voice. Both Kong and Gu Jinzi felt an unprecedented pressure when facing Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang gave them a terrifying feeling. Not to mention his strongest trump card, his assassination skills alone made them helpless in the Flame Saint realm. The formation of 10 people. They could only flee in all directions after being killed by Jian Wushuang alone. If Jian Wushuang used his strongest trump card, even Gu Jinzi might die. The most terrifying thing was that Jian Wushuang was absolutely invincible in the Blood Wave realm. No one could do anything to him. With such an enemy surrounding them, Gu Jinzi and Kong felt terrified just thinking about it. There's nothing we can do. This Heavenly Sword Marquis is too terrifying. With our formation, we can't deal with him at all. We can only hide. We can only think of a way to avoid him. Gu Jinzi clenched his fists. Avoid him? Kong frowned. From now on, the Flame Saint realm will try our best not to expose our tracks in front of others. We can't stay in a certain place either. Instead, we must keep moving around the central area of the Blood Wave realm so that the Heavenly Sword Marquis can't completely capture our position. In short, we can't let him find us. Gu Jinzi's voice was low. In addition, Deacon Yun, from today onward, you will stay with us until everyone in the Flame Saint realm leaves the Blood Wave realm. Is that okay? Gu Jinzi looked at the evil elder. He was too afraid of Jian Wushuang's assassination ability. In the face of Jian Wushuang's assassination, if there was not an expert who specialized in the soul, they would be beaten up. I have received orders from the higher-ups of the Sorcerer God sect. This time in the Blood Wave realm, I will do my best to help everyone in the Flame Saint realm, the evil elder said. Thank you. Gu Jinzi nodded slightly, then he said seriously. As long as we find a way to avoid Heavenly Sword Marquis and prevent him from finding us, he shouldn't be able to do anything to us. Moreover, his enemies in the Blood Wave realm are not only in the Flame Saint realm but also in the Destruction Saint realm and the Life and Death Saint realm. If he can't find our exact location, he will probably go and find trouble with those two families. Although the three holy realms were closely related to the will of the heavenly Tao and had been fighting against the outside world, they were not one but three saint realms, and they were recognized as the overlords of the divine beginning realm. There was also competition among them. When Jian Wushuang took revenge on the Flame Saint realm, they naturally hoped that Jian Wushuang would find trouble with the other two saint realms and stop staring at the Flame Saint realm. In that case, let's do it. Kong Yi nodded and agreed with Gu Jinzi. While Gu Jinzi and Kong Yi were discussing, boom! The ground suddenly shook as if something was soaring into the sky. Then, the three of them immediately felt a special wave coming from nearby. This wave was extremely strong. Gu Jinzi, Kong, and Deacon Yun, the evil elder, felt the wave and their pupils shrank. This fluctuation is the birth of the Blood Wave token? Yes, it's the birth of the Blood Wave token, and it's much bigger than the previous one we encountered. If I'm not wrong, it's not just one Blood Wave token, but 2 or even 3. 2 or even 3 Blood Wave tokens are born at the same time, and they're close to us? Gu Jinzi, Kong, and Deacon Yun's eyes turned red. However, Gu Jinzi was the first to calm down after a short while. No, we can't fight for the Blood Wave token this time, Gu Jinzi said directly. What? Kong and Deacon Yun glanced at Gu Jinzi, but they also reacted in the next moment. Damn it! Why did the blood wave token appear at this time? Gu Jinzi cursed directly. We just escaped from the Heavenly Sword Marquis. The Heavenly Sword Marquis must have rushed to the blood wave token at this time. If we rush there now, wouldn't we be sending ourselves to his door again? Kong could only shake his head helplessly. The three of them had been scared out of their wits by Jian Wushuang's sword attack. Now, they did not dare to face him again, so they did not dare to participate in the fight for the blood wave token. Moreover, they were not in a good condition. The people of the Flame Saint Realm were scattered by Jian Wushuang and had not gathered yet. Gu Jinzi, who was the strongest, had lost 80% of his divine power by Jian Wushuang's sword attack. With only 20% of his divine power left, it was impossible for him to participate in this competition. They had no choice but to give up. Let's go. When I recover to my peak condition, we still have a chance to fight for the blood wave token. Gu Jinzi said this, and the three of them quickly left. Just as they had expected, the blood wave token had created such a huge commotion that Jian Wushuang had sensed it immediately. Judging from the commotion, there should be at least 2 or even 3 blood wave tokens appearing at the same time. With so many blood wave tokens appearing at the same time, it will definitely attract more experts. Perhaps the Destruction Saint Realm, the Life and Death Saint Realm, and the Flame Saint Realm. This is a good opportunity for me. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Then, he immediately rushed to the place where the blood wave tokens had appeared. The blood wave realm had been open for nearly 40 days. During this time, 3 blood wave tokens had been born. These 3 had fallen into the hands of Master Ku, Han Xian, and Jian Wushuang, which made the experts who had not received the blood wave tokens anxious. After all, there were only 10 blood wave tokens, but there were too many people fighting for them. On the 39th day of the opening of the blood wave realm, a feast erupted near the territory where Jian Wushuang and the Flame Saint Realm were fighting. 3 blood wave tokens appeared at the same time and in the same place. The sudden explosion was so shocking that it attracted a large number of experts. When Jian Wushuang arrived at the place, there were already more than 100 experts fighting crazily for the 3 blood wave tokens. So many people? And they are so crazy. Even Jian Wushuang could not help looking at the scene in astonishment. There were more than 100 experts, the weakest of which was a peak saint. Among them, there were more than 10 invincible saints. They were fighting crazily. All of them just wanted to get the blood wave token, regardless of who had it. They would immediately be surrounded and attacked by almost everyone. The surrounding space and time were also directly sealed. Those who had gotten the blood wave token earlier in the fight did not have the chance to escape immediately. In just a moment, they would be surrounded and killed by others. Jian Wushuang had only been familiar with the battlefield for a few short moments, but he had already seen 6 experts die. Among the 6 experts, 3 were peak saints, and the other 3 were invincible saints. They were both very weak. It was indeed difficult to kill an invincible saint in a one-on-one battle. However, if he was surrounded by dozens of experts in a chaotic battle, and he could not escape, he would die. The probability of dying was certainly not small. For example, the 3 invincible saints who had died now had obtained the blood wave token because of their own strength. However, they were killed in the next moment. In such a crazy battle, even if he got the blood wave token, he would not be able to leave with it immediately unless he was really strong enough to face dozens of experts. However, such an expert can only be on the True Saint list, and only those who are ranked high on the True Saint list can do so, Jian Wushuang muttered. He looked at the battlefield in front of him. There were already experts on the True Saint list, but the ranking of this expert was not high. As time passed, more and more experts rushed over. The fight between hundreds of experts had now turned into a frenzied fight. Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. He looked at the void in front of him and said, "Several people from the Temporal Temple have also arrived." In the void not far away, the 5 members of the Temporal Temple, led by Di Hao, had also arrived at the battlefield. They soon joined in the frenzied battle. Not long after the Temporal Temple, the experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance also arrived. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had also sent 10 experts into the Blood Wave realm this time. Among them, the strongest was Saint Devil's Son. That Saint Devil's Son, ranked second on the true saint list? Jian Wushuang stood at the edge of the battlefield and looked at a tall young man with purple skin in the middle of the battlefield. The young man's eyes were long and narrow, like gems. He held a black divine mace in his hand. The power contained in the black divine mace was enough to make an invincible saint tremble. The son of Saint Devil not only possessed several powerful secret techniques but also had a high comprehension of principles. Most importantly, he was a special life form. Compared to ordinary experts, special life forms had a huge innate advantage. Just in terms of divine power, they were completely incomparable to ordinary invincible saints. He did not need to use any powerful techniques at all. Even a casual strike of the mace was not something an ordinary invincible saint could withstand. On the true saint list, the Light King who had merged two principles was known as the strongest. However, in many people's hearts, the only person who had a chance of fighting against the Light King was the Saint Devil Son. Now that Jian Wushuang had seen the Saint Devil Son with his own eyes, he was indeed amazed by the latter's strength. As Saint Devil Son entered the battlefield, he soon stood together with an expert on the true saint list. The expert on the true saint list was Shijun, who was currently ranked 16th. He was an expert with terrifying body protection ability. In terms of body protection ability alone, he could definitely be ranked in the top 3 on the true saint list. In addition, he also had relatively strong offensive skills, which was why he was ranked 16th on the true saint list. However, Shijun's luck was obviously not good. He had already grabbed a blood wave token during the chaotic battle and was about to leave. No one could stop him. He thought that he had the blood wave token in his hand. He did not expect that when he left, he would run into the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the others who were rushing to the battlefield. He was immediately attacked by the Saint Devil Son. Under the constant attacks of Saint Devil Son's terrifying power, even Shijun felt immense pressure. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the Temporal Temple have arrived. As for the Heavenly Ancestor Taoist sect, they have already obtained a blood wave token, so it's likely that they won't fight for it this time. The people from the 3 Saint Realms should be arriving soon, Jian Wushuang muttered. The next moment, his eyes lit up. They're coming. Jian Wushuang looked at the void not far away, where several figures were rushing over, led by Thunder God and Wan Xian. The Destruction Saint Realm is coming. The Life and Death Saint Realm is not slow. Jian Wushuang looked in another direction. The 10-man team of the Life and Death Saint Realm appeared there, led by Silver Wolf. After the 2 teams of the Saint Realm arrived, they immediately joined the battlefield and joined the feast. At this time, there were more than 600 experts participating in the feast. Among them, there were more than 70 invincible saints and more than 10 experts on the true saint list. The Destruction Saint Realm and the Life and Death Saint Realm, which are far away from here, have arrived. However, the Flame Saint Realm, which is nearby, hasn't arrived yet. Jian Wushuang had a strange look on his face, but he knew very well in his heart. Unsurprisingly, the Flame Saint Realm was frightened by him. They knew that he would come to the feast, so they simply did not come. I just met the Flame Saint Realm and used up nearly 50% of my divine power. I don't have enough divine power, so it's impossible for me to use it again. There's no rush. Anyway, I'm afraid that the fight won't end soon. I'll just wait here quietly, waiting for an opportunity while I slowly recover my divine power, Jian Wushuang said with a strange smile. The heaven-cleaving skill had consumed a lot of his divine power. Although he was a perfect chaotic creature and his divine power was recovering at an amazing speed, it would take him some time to recover 50% of his divine power. Even with the help of some elixirs, it would take him some time to recover to his peak. As for his Emperor's Destiny clone, his divine power had almost been used up when he was attacked by the 3 Saint Realms. It would not be easy for him to recover his divine power. His Emperor's life avatar had only recovered 10 to 20% of its divine power. It was not of much use to Jian Wushuang. Time passed slowly. The contest became more and more intense, and more experts died. Jian Wushuang had been hiding in the surrounding void to watch. It has been almost 15 minutes since I came here, but the contest still has no intention of ending. As for the experts who died, I have seen more than 50 of them, including 10 invincible saints. TSK. TSK. This is crazy, Jian Wushuang secretly praised. But now, the 3 blood wave tokens were in the hands of 3 different people. These 3 people were experts on the true saint list and were extremely strong. Therefore, they could hold on for a long time even if they were besieged by many experts. The body protection ability of that Shijun is really amazing. He is facing the Saint Devil Sun head-on, and the people of the Destruction Saint Realm, led by Thunder God, seem to have their eyes on the blood wave token in his hand and joined in the attack. But even now, the Shijun is still able to hold on. Jian Wushuang looked at the battlefield in the center. However, at this moment Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. He noticed that there was a peak saint in the Destruction Saint Realm who had accidentally been hit by the divine rapier of the Holy Devil Sun. The power of the divine rapier was extremely terrifying. Even though the power of the rapier was only 1/10 of its original power, it still severely injured the peak saint and instantly consumed more than 70% of his divine power. Damn it! This peak saint's expression also changed drastically. Junior Brother Hung, you withdraw from the battlefield first. Thunder God glanced at this peak saint. This peak saint nodded. He didn't try to force himself and immediately rushed out of the battlefield. On the way, no one stopped him. Soon, he arrived outside the battlefield. Only when he arrived here did he heave a sigh of relief. Then, he took out a medicinal elixir and planned to recover his divine power first. However, he did not notice that a phantom-like figure had quietly appeared on his body. This figure had appeared too suddenly and without a single sound. This peak saint of the Destruction Saint Realm did not notice it at all. Even though this figure had already stabbed out with the blood-colored longsword in his hand, this peak saint did not react at all. The result was chi. The blood-red sword light easily penetrated the divine body of the peak saint of the Destruction Saint Realm. The terrifying power contained in the sword light also completely destroyed less than 30% of his divine power. The peak saint of the Destruction Saint Realm widened his eyes with a look of confusion and fear. He had no idea what had happened, but before he could even scream, his breath was completely cut off. The first one, Jian Wushuang, appeared in the void where the peak saint had fallen. Seeing his divine body completely collapse, a cold smile appeared on his face. Then he looked at the battlefield in front of him. The fight for the blood wave token was still going on, and the people of the Destruction Saint Realm were still fighting with Saint Devil Sun for the blood wave token under the leadership of Thunder God and Wan Xin. As for what was happening outside the battlefield, they did not notice it at all. The people of the Destruction Saint Realm did not know that their junior brother Hung, who had just left the battlefield, had been quietly killed by Jian Wushuang. Moreover, this was only the first person that Jian Wushuang had killed. As the battle became more and more crazy and intense, not only did the experts die, but more and more experts were severely injured. During the period of caution, these severely injured experts would choose to leave the battlefield when they had only 30 to 40% of their divine power left. This gave Jian Wushuang an even more perfect assassination condition. Long Xian, you retreat first. On the side of the Life and Death Saint Realm, a peak saint with only 40% of his divine power left also withdrew from the battlefield. However, as soon as he withdrew from the battlefield, he was immediately assassinated by Jian Wushuang and died on the spot. The second one, Jian Wushuang said with a cold smile. The third one. The fourth one. After 4 consecutive attacks, 4 experts from the Destruction Saint Realm and the Life and Death Saint Realm who had retreated from the battlefield died at Jian Wushuang's hands. Until Jian Wushuang's 5th attack. This time, Jian Wushuang's target was an invincible saint from the Life and Death Saint Realm who had just retreated from the battlefield. Because he was an invincible saint, Jian Wushuang was more cautious. He did his best and did not hold back at all. Even so, an accident still happened. Although his killing move pierced through the invincible saint's divine body, it did not destroy all the remaining divine power of the invincible saint in the first place. The invincible saint woke up in an instant. Assassinate. Someone is assassinating around the battlefield. It's Heavenly Sword Marquis. Everyone, be careful of Heavenly Sword Marquis. When Jian Wushuang discovered that the invincible saint still had some divine power left, he struck again with lightning speed. The blood-red sword light destroyed his remaining divine power with shocking power. However, the invincible saint's dying roar still spread. Assassination! Someone is trying to assassinate us. It's the Heavenly Sword Marquis. Everyone, be careful of the Heavenly Sword Marquis. The roar was hysterical and filled with endless fear. Even the heated battlefield could not stop the roar. The entire battlefield was in an uproar because of the roar. Assassination! Heavenly Sword Marquis? Many people on the battlefield were astonished, especially the experts of the two Saint Realms. To these experts of the two Saint Realms, the name Heavenly Sword Marquis was too ear-piercing. They also noticed the scene outside the battlefield. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Damn it! This bastard actually tried to assassinate our people outside the battlefield? The people of the two Saint Realms were shocked and furious, and the eyes of Thunder God and Silver Wolf turned red. Sensing the angry gazes, Jian Wushuang gave a strange smile and said, "Has he been exposed? But it doesn't matter. Since he has been exposed, I will assassinate him openly." With a flash, Jian Wushuang rushed toward the center of the battlefield. Although he had not recovered his divine power to its peak, he was still able to kill as many people as he wanted, even if he only had 50% to 60% of his divine power left. Watch out! Heavenly Sword Marquis is coming for us. Experts who are good at soul power, quick, lock on to Heavenly Sword Marquis position. There were too many experts fighting for the Blood Wave token. There were no less than 10 experts who were good at soul. They could lock on to Jian Wushuang's position in an instant, but they did not pay much attention to it. They did not pay too much attention to it. Because everyone knew that Jian Wushuang's purpose was not for the Blood Wave token. After all, he had already obtained one Blood Wave token. Now he rushed to the battlefield. Thinking of his assassination outside the battlefield, everyone immediately guessed that he was here for the two Saint Realms. Be careful, be careful. Silver Wolf and Thunder God had already warned him, but they still underestimated Jian Wushuang's assassination methods. Having reached the rank 7 true Saint Realm and mastered the first move of Blood Drop, he could even kill an invincible saint. In this chaotic battle, the experts of the two Saint Realms were almost scattered. It was too easy for Jian Wushuang to assassinate them. Like a ghost, he first appeared beside the experts of the Destruction Saint Realm. The Destruction Saint Realm had lost 2 people in the first 2 encounters with the Temporal Temple. Among the 5 people killed by Jian Wushuang outside the battlefield, 2 of them were from the Destruction Saint Realm. Only 6 people were still alive. Although 5 of them were invincible saints, even invincible saints were in great danger in this chaotic battle. Die! Jian Wushuang first appeared behind the remaining Peak Saint of the Destruction Saint Realm and performed the Blood Drop move. The Peak Saint did not have time to react before his divine body was penetrated by Jian Wushuang, and more than 60% of his divine power was lost. After the Peak Saint's divine body was reconstituted, he killed the Peak Saint with another sword move. Then Jian Wushuang attacked the invincible saints one by one. Oh no! I can't block his swordsmanship. Bastard! In just a moment, except for the 2 experts on the True Saint list, Thunder God and Wan Xian, the other 3 invincible saints in the Saint Realm were all killed by Jian Wushuang. They could not resist Jian Wushuang's attacks at all. Chi! 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 The sound of their divine bodies being penetrated rang out one after another. These 3 invincible saints had much more divine power than ordinary Peak Saints, and their protective abilities were stronger. Jian Wushuang's sword could only destroy 10% or 20% of their divine power, but the 3 invincible saints' divine power was being consumed crazily. In just a short while, the 3 invincible saints had consumed less than 40% of their divine power. Seeing this, Thunder God and Wan Xian could no longer care about fighting for the Blood Wave token. They had to rush over to help them resist Jian Wushuang's assassination. In the end, they had no choice but to do so. Retreat! Leave the battlefield first. The 5 people from the Destruction Saint Realm retreated. There was no other way. If they did not retreat, the remaining 3 invincible saints would probably die at the hands of Jian Wushuang. Thunder God and Wan Xian had to stay with these three people and ask an expert who was good at soul to help sense Jian Wushuang's position in order to ensure the safety of these three invincible saints. The retreat of the 5 Saint Realm exterminators surprised the other contenders, especially Saint Devil Son of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Haha! These 2 troublemakers have finally retreated. Thank you, Heavenly Sword Marquis. Saint Devil Son's hearty laughter echoed across the battlefield. Jian Wushuang also glanced at Saint Devil Son. Although the purpose of his attack this time was purely to take revenge on the 3 Saint Realms and kill the experts from the Destruction Saint Realm, it did help Saint Devil Son a lot. It must be known that the Saint Devil Son had been eyeing the Blood Wave medallion in the Shijun's hand since the beginning. However, while he was snatching it, the Destruction Saint Realm had arrived. Although Thunder God and Wan Xian were not as strong as him individually, when they joined forces, it had also brought him a lot of trouble, which was why the Blood Wave token was still in the Shijun's hand. But now that Thunder God and Wan Xian had retreated, he could completely let go. With a flip of his left hand, another black divine sword appeared in his hand. His 2 black divine swords were raised at the same time, and the difference between them, 2 different divine powers, one black and one white, appeared. White represented life, and black represented death. Life and death combined perfectly. This was the embodiment of comprehending the principles of life and death to the extreme. The great destruction of life and death. Boom! The 2 divine rapiers smashed out at the same time. The power of the black and white divine power was unleashed to the extreme, coupled with the innate advantage given by Saint Devil Son as a special life form. The power of this move was earth-shaking. On the battlefield, almost everyone's eyes were attracted by this move of Saint Devil Son. Even Jian Wushuang felt the same way. No wonder he is the 2nd-ranked Holy Devil Son on the True Saint list. It is said that he is the only one on the True Saint list who is qualified to fight with the Light King. Now it seems that it is true. At least his current move is no weaker than the staff skill of the Light King, which combines the 2 principles. Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart. Sensing the shocking power contained in the Saint Devil Son's move, Shijun's expression changed drastically. He tried his best to block this move. But, bang! With a loud bang, Shijun rolled and retreated in a sorry state. Even though he had regained his balance, his body was still shaking crazily. Moreover, the divine power aura on his body was weakened. Shijun, your divine power is less than 30%. Hand over the Blood Wave token to me. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave the Blood Wave realm. The Saint Devil Son's cold voice echoed in the center of the battlefield. Damn it! Shijun's face was extremely unsightly. He stared at the Saint Devil Son in front of him. If it weren't for the fact that there are too many people surrounding me, how could you not be able to do anything to me? Shijun was extremely unwilling to accept this. From the start of this battle, he had been surrounded and killed by many experts. Later on, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the Destruction Saint Realm joined in. Although he was powerful and had a strong life-saving ability, he could not withstand the encirclement of so many people. As for the Saint Devil Son, if it was a one-on-one fight, he was not really afraid of the Saint Devil Son because although the latter was stronger than him, he could not kill him at all. But now, under the siege of everyone and the Saint Devil Son, it was enough to pose a fatal threat to him. Shijun, do you still want to struggle? Do you really think no one can kill you? The Saint Devil Son voice was cold. As he spoke, the divine power aura on his body, which was far above that of the invincible saint, soared again, almost reaching a whole new realm. This guy actually hid his strength? Shijun's pupils constricted, but he could only shake his head helplessly. Forget it. Saint Devil Son, you're amazing. As soon as he finished speaking, Shijun directly waved his hand and threw a token towards Saint Devil Son. This token emitted an extremely unique aura. The many experts on the battlefield could tell at a glance that this was indeed the Blood Wave token. At least you're sensible. The Saint Devil Son took the token and put it into his interspatial ring, but a smile appeared on his face. When the experts around saw that the Blood Wave token had fallen into the Saint Devil Son's hands, their expressions became extremely ugly. Damn it! The Blood Wave token has fallen into the Saint Devil Sun's hands. If it was in the Lord Eater's hands, we might have a chance to fight for it. But in the Saint Devil Sun's hands, it's impossible to snatch the Blood Wave token from the Saint Devil Sun's hands. Quick! Go and snatch the other 2 Blood Wave tokens. 3 Blood Wave tokens, 3 different battlefields. As the first Blood Wave token fell into the hands of the Saint Devil Sun, the experts who had been fighting for it immediately rushed to the other 2 battlefields. No one chose to snatch the Blood Wave token from the Saint Devil Sun. The first Blood Wave token naturally belonged to someone. On the second battlefield, there were also nearly 200 experts fighting for the token. The strongest of them were from the Temporal Temple and the Life and Death Saint Realm. The Temporal Temple was led by Di Hao, who was currently ranked 4th on the True Saint rankings. His strength was extremely shocking, especially his axe technique, which could barely stack the power of 2 principles together with his secret techniques. This power was enough to allow him to run rampant on the battlefield. However, Silver Wolf of the Life and Death Saint Realm was also very powerful. Most importantly, an expert ranked in the top 20 on the True Saint list chose to join forces with him so he could fight Di Hao head-on. As many experts joined the first battlefield, the battlefield became even more intense and crazy. But now there was a change in the battlefield. The change was, of course, Jian Wushuang. He directly rushed into the battlefield and immediately launched an assassination on the experts of the Life and Death Saint Realm. As soon as he launched his assassination, the Life and Death Saint Realm was faced with unprecedented trouble. After 2 peak saints were killed by Jian Wushuang, and an invincible saint was defeated by Jian Wushuang's divine body, Silver Wolf no longer had the desire to fight for the Blood Wave token. He could only choose to leave the battlefield immediately. Without the powerful battle strength of the Life and Death Saint Realm and the help of Jian Wushuang, no one on the battlefield could stop Di Hao. Soon, the second Blood Wave token fell into Di Hao's hands. Just like the previous Saint Devil Sun, since the Blood Wave token had fallen into the hands of Di Hao, who ranked 4th on the True Saint list, no one dared to fight for it. The second Blood Wave token also belonged to him. Next, it was time to fight for the third Blood Wave token. The fight for the last Blood Wave token was naturally even crazier. Moreover, there were many solitary experts fighting for this Blood Wave token. They fought crazily for nearly 15 minutes. More than dozens of experts had fallen, but they were still in a stalemate. However, at this time, the Light King had arrived. The Light King was a distance away from the battlefield. When 3 Blood Wave tokens appeared, he rushed over as fast as he could. Clearly, he was not too late, at least 1 Blood Wave token was still there. After he arrived on the battlefield, he used shocking methods to crush everything. He easily took the last Blood Wave token from the many experts fighting over it. From then on, the 3 Blood Wave tokens that were born this time all belonged to someone else. The feast of fighting had come to an end. It was still the same void. The fighting had stopped completely. However, the experts still stayed here and did not leave immediately. Crazy. This fight is too crazy. I've been here since the beginning of the fight. Although I didn't participate in the fight, I saw the whole process clearly. From the beginning to the end of the fight, more than 60 experts died in the process. Yeah, more or less. Fortunately, they all have immortal bodies. Even if their divine bodies were destroyed once or twice, they could still survive. Otherwise, at least 200 or 300 experts would have died in this battle. Some experts who did not participate in this battle but saw the process very clearly were discussing in secret. Immortal bodies were indeed the most powerful life-saving means for true saints. If they did not have immortal bodies and died immediately after their divine bodies were destroyed, then many experts would have died in the battle just now. However, even with an immortal body, more than 60 experts had already died in this battle. Could be seen how crazy this battle was. Most of these experts who died are solitary experts. As long as a very small number of them are from some factions or sects, these solitary experts don't have their own teams. If they want to fight for the Blood Wave token, they will have to go all out. However, how can the Blood Wave token be so easy to fight for? Purple-robed old man sneered. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a thin and cold-looking young man next to him gave a strange smile. Who said that those major powers and sects suffered relatively light losses? Look at those two sanctums, they're quite miserable. In this battle, most of the experts who had died were solitary experts. As for those experts from large factions and sects, very few of them had died. However, the Life and Death Saint Realm and the Destruction Saint Realm were exceptions. In the Void, the experts who had just participated in the battle or had witnessed the battle gathered in twos and threes. They looked in the direction of the experts from the Life and Death Saint Realm and the Destruction Saint Realm with gloating gazes. When the two Saint Realms entered the Blood Wave Realm, each Saint Realm had a total of 10 experts, which was an extremely powerful lineup. But now, there were only 5 experts of the Destruction Saint Realm left, and there were only 5 experts of the Life and Death Saint Realm left. In the Blood Wave world, the two Saint Realms had lost half of their bodies. Besides the 2 peak saints of the Life and Death Saint Realm who had died in the beginning, everyone else had been killed in the competition. The one who had killed them was Jian Wushuang. Heavenly Sword Marquis is too terrifying. His assassination methods are impossible to guard against. He killed so many experts from the 2 Saint Realms in one go. He's really ruthless. It would be strange if he wasn't ruthless. Don't forget that all the experts from the 3 Saint Realms went out to kill him. They even invited Light King and 9 Temple Saintess. Now that Heavenly Sword Marquis has a chance, he will definitely take revenge. The Destruction Saint Realm and the Life and Death Saint Realm have suffered great losses this time. The experts on the scene were discussing in whispers. As for the remaining experts from the 2 Saint Realms, their faces were extremely gloomy as they stared at Jian Wushuang. Their eyes were filled with shock, anger, and resentment. It was obvious that they wanted to tear Jian Wushuang apart and eat him alive. However, when they thought of Jian Wushuang's life-saving methods, they felt helpless. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are so ruthless this time. After saying this, Thunder God turned around and left. Humph! Silver Wolf snorted and left with the rest of the Life and Death Saint Realm experts. Jian Wushuang just watched quietly and had no intention of pursuing them. These 2 Saint Realms are smart. They don't want to attack me. Even when they left, they specially invited an expert who specializes in the soul. Jian Wushuang looked at the 2 Saint Realm experts who had left. When the 2 Saint Realms left, they each brought a soul expert whom they had just invited at a high price. They also understood that in the face of Jian Wushuang's assassination, without an expert who specialized in soul, they would only be beaten up. The lineup of the 2 Saint Realms is extremely strong. Now that I've killed half of the experts in each of the 2 Saint Realms, most of the survivors are invincible saints. With an expert who specializes in soul, even if I continue to chase after them and assassinate them, the chances of success are not high. Jian Wushuang sighed quietly. Well, anyway, the losses I've caused to the 3 Saint Realms are enough to make their hearts ache. Let's wait for another opportunity. Jian Wushuang smiled and left after bidding farewell to Di Hao, Qian Hongzi, and the others. He still did not choose to go with the people of the Temporal Temple. After all, he still had ideas about the experts of the 3 Saint Realms. As the experts left one after another, the huge contest came to an end. Although the contest ended, the process of the contest caused a great commotion in the Blood Wave realm. At the same time, there were some interesting topics. For example, Jian Wushuang's assassination of the 2 Saint Realms shocked many people. The outside world had a deeper understanding of Jian Wushuang. Heavenly Sword Marquis is really ruthless. The 3 Saint Realms besieged him before, but now he is crazily assassinating the experts of the 3 Saint Realms. During this feast, the experts of the Destruction Saint Realm and the Life and Death Saint Realm were completely numb from his assassination. He didn't even care about the Blood Wave tokens and could only run far away. If it weren't for him, who would the 3 Blood Wave tokens belong to would be uncertain. He has guts. Facing the 3 experts of the Saint Realm, the Light King, and the 9 Temple Saintess, he still dares to stay and play with them. His strength and talent are incredible. He just broke through to the 7th rank True Saint, and his battle strength is comparable to that of an invincible saint. His desire for revenge is also very strong. The 3 Saint Realms were mercilessly avenged by him this time. And the most important thing is that his methods are too amazing. Yes. Whether it's his life-saving ability or his assassination ability, they are all very terrifying. Previously, the forces of the divine beginning realm had already publicly acknowledged that Heavenly Sword Marquis life-saving ability was the best among the immortal saints. However, after the assassination in this battle, I'm afraid that Heavenly Sword Marquis assassination ability can also be said to be the best. After all, he assassinated and killed an invincible saint. His life-saving ability is difficult to deal with, his terrifying assassination methods, and his courage is very ruthless. We should never provoke such a person. All corners of the Bloodwave realm were talking about Jian Wushuang, which made Jian Wushuang's reputation reach a whole new level. Not long after the end of the feast, there was another item in the information about Jian Wushuang. In addition to his previously recognized life-saving ability, Jian Wushuang had also killed an invincible saint. In the Bloodwave realm, the fight for the Bloodwave tokens continued. Although 6 Bloodwave tokens had been created and had been taken away, there were still 4 Bloodwave tokens that had not been created. Everyone was waiting eagerly. Jian Wushuang stopped on an empty hill. He flipped his palm and looked at the information he had just received. It was his own. In addition to my life-saving ability, my assassination ability is also recognized as number 1. Moreover, the evaluation on this information is really high. It also says that although I'm not on the true saint list, I'm more terrifying than many experts on the true saint list. A playful smile appeared on the corner of Jian Wushuang's mouth, but he soon understood. Indeed, ordinary experts on the true saint list were not as terrifying as him. After all, even experts on the true saint list would find it difficult to kill the invincible saint in a one-on-one fight unless they were surrounded by people. Only the top experts on the true saint list had killed the invincible saint. However, he had killed an invincible saint in front of everyone during the feast. To be able to kill the invincible saint on his own, although the invincible saint was not in his peak state, it was still very impressive. Moreover, Jian Wushuang had killed an invincible saint, Blue Eagle, but it was not seen by outsiders and did not spread out. All in all, he was much more terrifying than an ordinary expert on the true saint list. With my life-saving ability and assassination ability, I'm now really famous in the divine beginning realm. Jian Wushuang smiled. At this moment, Jian Wushuang, a message suddenly came. Ha! Jian Wushuang's expression changed. In this life, except for the first time when he was born in the sorcerer god realm, he used an alias. Especially after reaching the 3rd heaven, almost no one knew his real name. But now, the message was addressed to him by his real name. So it's Miss Shower. Long time no see. I wonder how my family is doing at your place. Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. Miss Shower was Jian Wushuang's most mysterious woman in this life. She was also a reincarnated person with a mysterious identity. Jian Wushuang did not know her real origin. However, he learned from Xianxia Daoist that Miss Shower was not his friend or enemy, so they had formed an alliance before. Later, when the people from the Supreme Emotion-Forgetting Valley wanted to take his wife, Leng Rushuang, away, Jian Wushuang used his life-level power and heaven-cleaving skill at all costs, which alerted the power of the will of heaven. Even the experts from the 3 saint realms came in person. Jian Wushuang had no choice but to ask his ally to help. Miss Shower did have the means to move all his family members in this life in the shortest time possible, including his parents in this life. He also had a sister and a brother. Over the years, Jian Wushuang would occasionally ask Miss Shower about the situation of his relatives. But this was the first time Miss Shower took the initiative to look for him. Don't worry. Your relatives are doing very well, and I have used resources to force your parents to reach the level of immortal saint. As for your brothers and sisters, they are more competitive and want to rely on their own strength to grow. But their talent is limited and their growth is not satisfactory. But in general, there is no problem, Shower said. That's good. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. May I know why Miss Shower is looking for me? Jian Wushuang, I have just received news that there is a man named Heavenly Sword Marquis in the Bloodwave realm. He is very skilled. His life-saving ability and assassination ability are ranked first among the immortal saints. This person should be you, right? Shower asked. It's me. Jian Wushuang did not deny it. He had fought several times in the Blood Wave realm, and someone had recorded his battle with a mirror image. He did not deliberately disguise his appearance, so Shower could naturally recognize him at a glance. When I met you before, you were not even in the heavenly demon realm. Now, in less than 1,000 years, you have already made a name for yourself in the divine beginning realm. It seems that I did not misjudge you when I chose to form an alliance with you, Shower said. Miss Shower, you didn't come here to tell me this, did you? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. Of course not, Shower said. I came to find you because of someone, the Nine Temple Saintess. It's really her. It seems that Miss Shower must have had a good relationship with the Nine Temple Saintess. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently, not surprised at all. He had met the Nine Temple Saintess before, and she had used the charm on him. Shower had used that special charm on him before. Jian Wushuang felt it was very familiar at that time, and he had guessed that there might be a special relationship between the Nine Temple Saintess and the mysterious Miss Shower. I did have some relationship with her before, and I'm looking for you this time to ask you to help me kill the Nine Temple Saintess in the Blood Wave realm, Shower said seriously. Kill her? Jian Wushuang was slightly surprised, but then he shook his head. Miss Shower, don't you think too highly of me? Yes, my assassination skills are the best among the immortal saints, but no matter how good my assassination skills are, I can barely kill an ordinary invincible saint. But the Nine Temple Saintess is one of the top 5 experts on the True Saint list, and she was ranked 3rd before. It's impossible for me to kill Nine Temple Saintess with my assassination ability. Jian Wushuang was telling the truth. His assassination ability could threaten an ordinary invincible saint, but it definitely could not threaten an expert ranked in the top 5 on the True Saint list like Nine Temple Saintess. Even if he used his strongest trump card, the heaven-cleaving skill, he was not confident that he could kill Nine Temple Saintess. Can't do it. Shower was silent for a moment and then said, Well, since you are not sure that you can kill her, then forget it. But if you can, I want you to try to stop her from getting the opportunity in the Blood Wave realm. Is that okay? Just stop her. If she doesn't get the Blood Wave token, I can give it a try, Jian Wushuang said. Well, if you don't let her get the opportunity in the Blood Wave realm, then you can pay me back for saving your family. How about that? Shower said. No problem. Jian Wushuang nodded. Well, I'll wait for your good news, Shower said and then cut off the communication. On the hill, Jian Wushuang put the communication token into his interspatial ring and then exhaled heavily. I had guessed that the Nine Temple Saintess was related to Miss Shower, but I didn't expect them to be enemies. I didn't expect Miss Shower to come to me and ask me to kill her for her. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. The Nine Temple Saintess had helped the 3 Saint Realms to kill him, which was already a grudge between them. But now, the mysterious Miss Shower asked him to find a way to kill the Nine Temple Saintess or prevent her from getting the opportunity in the Blood Wave realm. Nine Temple Saintess, it's not that I'm calculative, but right now, I do have a reason to attack you, Jian Wushuang murmured. He owed Miss Shower a favor, and he owed her more than one. Since it was a favor, of course, he had to pay it back. In the void at the center of the Blood Wave realm, a beautiful woman wearing a silver robe was sitting there quietly. Although she was sitting quietly with her eyes closed, the charm she exuded was enough to make people dream about her. The Nine Temple Saintess was not only the top 5 on the True Saint list, but she was also the goddess in the hearts of many immortal saints in the Blood Wave realm. In terms of beauty, there were few people in the entire divine beginning realm who could compare with her. At this moment, the Nine Temple Saintess suddenly opened her beautiful eyes and looked to the side. In that direction, a figure was rushing over. Nine Temple Saintess, long time no see. How have you been? Jian Wushuang crossed his arms and said with a faint smile. After locking his eyes on Nine Temple Saintess, he asked the Temporal Temple to find her location and immediately rushed over. Heavenly Sword Marquis? Nine Temple Saintess looked at Jian Wushuang and frowned slightly. What are you doing here? Nothing. I just happened to pass by and saw you here, so I came to say hello. Jian Wushuang smiled. By the way, I read about you before. It said that you're from the Nine-Tailed clan, one of the 4 divine clans. Is that true? Whether I'm from the Nine-Tailed clan has nothing to do with you, right? The Nine-Temple Saintess glanced at Jian Wushuang. She had helped the 3 Saint Realms deal with Jian Wushuang before, so she was naturally wary of him. However, she did not have a deep hatred for Jian Wushuang before. If possible, she would like to ease the relationship between them. After all, it was better to be friends with a genius like Jian Wushuang. It was better than being enemies. You're right. In that case, I won't disturb you, Jian Wushuang said, and then directly flew toward the void. Nine-Temple Saintess thought that Jian Wushuang would leave, but she found that Jian Wushuang stopped in the void not far away from her and then sat down cross-legged. Heavenly Sword Marquis? Nine-Temple Saintess narrowed her eyes and immediately stood up and flew in the opposite direction of Jian Wushuang, trying to distance herself from him. However, when she moved, Jian Wushuang immediately stood up and followed her. Seeing this scene, the Nine-Temple Saintess immediately understood that Jian Wushuang was not just passing by, as she said, but was deliberately coming for her. Heavenly Sword Marquis just took revenge on the 3 Saint Realms and killed half of the experts in the Destruction Saint Realm and the Life and Death Saint Realm. It is said that several experts in the Flame Saint Realm died at his hands. Now, does she have her eyes on me? Nine-Temple Saintess' expression changed slightly. Then she directly went up to Jian Wushuang. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Nine-Temple Saintess appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and smiled. Her every move was charming and mesmerizing. Heavenly Sword Marquis, do you have a crush on me? Nine-Temple Saintess said with a smile. A crush on you? Nine-Temple Saintess, don't you think too highly of yourself? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly with a mocking look in his eyes. Nine-Temple Saintess was not annoyed, but said in a low voice, in that case, why are you following me? What a joke. We are all wandering in the central area of the Bloodwave realm, and we are all fighting for the Bloodwave token. The central area of the Bloodwave realm is only so big. How can you say that I am following you? Jian Wushuang sneered. Nine-Temple Saintess' eyes slightly sank, but she could not refute. Well, then you should be careful. The Bloodwave realm ignored Jian Wushuang and continued to fly forward, Jian Wushuang following closely behind her. Half a day passed in a flash, but the Bloodwave realm could not shake Jian Wushuang off. What's wrong with Heavenly Sword Marquis? The Nine-Temple Saintess was extremely angry. No matter who it would be uncomfortable to be followed like this, not to mention the Nine-Temple Saintess was a little afraid of Jian Wushuang. This fear was because she was not a threat to Jian Wushuang at all. Although Heavenly Sword Marquis is not very strong, his life-saving ability and assassination ability are recognized as the best. Moreover, his physique is very strange, so he is completely immune to my soul attacks. He is my nemesis. Fortunately, his assassination ability is not a threat to me at the moment. Otherwise, I would really be a threat if he targeted me. Nine-Temple Saintess murmured. She could not threaten Jian Wushuang, and it was difficult for Jian Wushuang to threaten her. This was what Nine-Temple Saintess knew in her heart. However, because neither side could threaten the other, she felt irritated because Jian Wushuang was following her. In her opinion, Jian Wushuang was simply wasting time. Moreover, if they really encountered the birth of the Bloodwave token, if they fought, they would hinder each other. This was not beneficial to either of them. No! Nine-Temple Saintess' face suddenly changed. If the Bloodwave token was born near us, we would be in each other's way if we fought for it at the same time. However, Heavenly Sword Marquis had already obtained one Bloodwave token a long time ago, so it would be useless even if he got another one. Therefore, his purpose now is not to fight for the Bloodwave token, but to hinder me and prevent me from getting the Bloodwave token. The Nine-Temple Saintess finally understood Jian Wushuang's purpose. But after understanding it, she became even more distressed. After all, she could not do anything to a person who was her nemesis. How could she fight for the Bloodwave token if he kept following her and hindering her? Heavenly Sword Marquis, we didn't have a big grudge before. It was the 3 Saint Realms who paid a great price to ask me to help them, so I only gave them face. Moreover, with the 3 Saint Realms ability, even if I didn't agree, they would invite other experts who are good at soul to deal with you. Why are you still clinging to me? Why don't you and I bury the hatchet? Maybe we can become good friends. What do you think? If you're still not satisfied, I can give you a batch of resources and treasures as an apology. What do you think? Nine Temple Saintess stopped and said, Bury the hatchet? Become good friends? I'm sorry, I don't think so. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. How about I owe you a favor at most? Many people want a favor from me, the Nine Temple Saintess. The Nine Temple Saintess continued. I'm not interested. Jian Wushuang still shook his head. Heavenly Sword Marquis. Don't go too far. The Nine Temple Saintess was extremely angry. Go too far? So what if I go too far? If you have the ability, why don't you kill me? Jian Wushuang sneered. Shameless. The Nine Temple Saintess finally could not help but curse. Shameless. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. How dare you call yourself shameless? When you and so many experts from the three saint realms and the Light King surrounded me, a rank 6 true saint, did you ever think of being shameless? The Nine Temple Saintess was at a loss for words. Indeed, they had surrounded Jian Wushuang and killed him alone. Moreover, Jian Wushuang was only a rank 6 true saint at that time. Humph, in that case you should follow me. Nine Temple Saintess clenched her teeth and rushed forward without bothering Jian Wushuang. Of course, Jian Wushuang followed her from a distance. 3 days passed in a row. During these 3 days, Jian Wushuang followed closely behind Nine Temple Saintess. Nine Temple Saintess also tried to get rid of him, but Jian Wushuang was not slower than her. He was even slightly faster than Nine Temple Saintess, so Nine Temple Saintess did not succeed. During these 3 days, the 7th blood wave token was born. However, because the place where it was born was far away, Jian Wushuang and the Nine Temple Saintess did not have time to catch up. In the end, the blood wave token was obtained by an expert named Silver Snow King. Silver Snow King was a new expert in the blood wave realm. Although he was not ranked on the True Saint list, many people thought that he had the battle strength of the top 20 on the True Saint list after the previous competition. In the vast void. It's been 3 days. Heavenly Sword Marquis has been following me closely for 3 days. But he hasn't given up. Instead of seeking revenge from the 3 saint realms, he has been following me. It's obvious that he wants to stare at me until he dies. Nine Temple Saintess kept moving forward. However, her soul power could sense Jian Wushuang's presence behind her. She was so angry that she could not help but clench her teeth. But there was nothing she could do. But at this moment, buzz, the earth shook, and then a special fluctuation spread from the void not far away. This fluctuation immediately made Nine Temple Saintess ecstatic. The blood wave token has been born, and it's clearly around me. It's very close to me. Nine Temple Saintess immediately became excited. Since the opening of the blood wave realm, 7 blood wave tokens had been born and obtained. Only 3 remained. These 3 blood wave tokens were especially important. My luck wasn't good previously. I didn't manage to catch up to the first 7 blood wave tokens. Even the craziest competition for the 3 blood wave tokens wasn't able to catch up. Instead, it was given to people like Cold Heart and Silver Snow King who were weaker than me. And this 8th blood wave token appeared right next to me. This time, I finally caught up. No matter what, I must get this blood wave token. A trace of heat also appeared in Nine Temple Saintess' beautiful eyes, and then she rushed toward the source of the fluctuation as fast as she could. While rushing toward the source of the fluctuation, Nine Temple Saintess also noticed Jian Wushuang's movement. Sure enough, Heavenly Sword Marquis has caught up with me. If nothing unexpected happens, he will definitely try his best to hinder me and prevent me from getting the blood wave token. Unfortunately, I already have a way to deal with it. Nine Temple Saintess sneered in her heart. During the 3 days of entanglement with Jian Wushuang, Nine Temple Saintess had already planned how to deal with Jian Wushuang. Now, of course, she had an idea. Soon, Nine Temple Saintess and Jian Wushuang arrived at the void where the blood wave token was born. In the void, the fight had begun, but there were only a dozen people present, most of whom were peak saints. As for the invincible saint, there was only one, and there were no experts on the true saint list. A good opportunity. Nine Temple Saintess was overjoyed, but she did not rush to the battlefield immediately. Instead, she rushed directly toward Jian Wushuang. Heavenly Sword Marquis, take this. Nine Temple Saintess appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and a strong green light shone from her beautiful eyes. Jian Wushuang was quite familiar with this green light. When he was besieged by the experts of the three saint realms, he used the lonely hell, which trapped Nine Temple Saintess and Thunder God. However, the Nine Temple Saintess had forced herself out of the solitary hell with a flash of green light in her eyes. She had even helped Thunder God fight for it. Now the green light appeared again and shone at Jian Wushuang for a moment. Is it a soul attack or a charm? Jian Wushuang stood there indifferently, unmoved by the green light. No matter what the Nine Temple Saintess did, she could never threaten him. However, when the green light shone on him, Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. It's not a charm, it's an illusion? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. This illusion was very powerful. Even with Jian Wushuang's state of mind, he fell into it at once. Although he immediately sensed it and began to attack it, he still needed time to break it. Although it did not take much time, 2 or 3 breaths was enough. During these 2 or 3 breaths, the Nine Temple Saintess had already rushed toward the battlefield ahead. She clearly thought that as soon as the fight began, she would immediately use the illusion to trap Jian Wushuang, and then seize the blood wave token while Jian Wushuang was in the illusion. As long as she was fast enough, when Jian Wushuang caught up with her again, she would definitely have taken the blood wave token. As long as she got the blood wave token, Jian Wushuang could only watch helplessly. Her plan was flawless. Just as she expected, Jian Wushuang was trapped in the illusion, and she also entered the battlefield proudly. There were only a dozen people on the battlefield, and there was only one invincible saint. Who could resist the Ninth Temple Saintess, who was ranked 5th on the true saint list? Moreover, the Nine Temple Saintess specialized in the soul, and soul attacks were the most terrifying to many people. After all, an undying body was useless to the soul. As soon as the Nine Temple Saintess appeared, her soul attacks swept across and easily killed several peak saints. The invincible saint who had already obtained the blood wave token was so scared that he immediately gave it to her. Since then, the 8th blood wave token had successfully fallen into the hands of the Nine Temple Saintess. At this time, Jian Wushuang had just escaped from the illusion. When he saw that the blood wave token had fallen into the hands of the Nine Temple Saintess, Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly. He was wondering whether he should continue to fight for it. However, his expression suddenly changed. Another expert came, and the aura of the person who came seems to be very strong. Well, it's them. Jian Wushuang looked at the figures coming from the void, but a strange smile appeared on his face. This is interesting. Not far away in the void, 2 figures were rushing over side by side. Both of them were extremely fast and appeared around the battlefield in an instant. When they arrived, they happened to see the Nine Temple Saintess putting the blood wave token into her interspatial ring. Seeing this, their expressions sank. It's them. The Nine Temple Saintess also sensed their arrival and could not help but raise her eyebrows. If it was any other expert, even if it was the 2 invincible saints or 2 experts on the true saint list, the Nine Temple Saintess would not care too much. But the 2 people in front of her brought great pressure to the Nine Temple Saintess. These 2 people stood side by side in front of the Nine Temple Saintess. On the right side was a bald man who was over 3 meters tall and was as strong as a mountain. This bald man carried a mace. He had a gentle smile on his face and gave off a simple and honest feeling. However, it was this simple and honest man that made the hearts of the experts present tremble. Taita was currently ranked 13th on the true saint list. This was a solitary expert who had become famous a long time ago. However, no one knew his real name. As for the name Taita, it was given to him by others because he was not only tall and sturdy, he was like a mountain, and most importantly, he had an almost invincible body protection ability. His body protection and defense ability was widely recognized as the #1 among the many immortal saints in the divine beginning realm. Just like Jian Wushuang's widely recognized #1 life-saving ability and assassination ability, Iron Tower was the #1 defense ability. That was why it was called Iron Tower, which meant it was indestructible. In addition to his defense, his offensive skills were also good, especially the mace in his hand. When he swung it, it was powerful enough to easily crush the invincible saint. That was why he was ranked 13th on the true saint list. If it was just Tai Ta alone, 9 Temple Saintess could accept it. After all, Tai Ta could not do anything to her. But beside Tai Ta, in front of 9 Temple Saintess to her right, there was a man in a black robe. He had a cold and gloomy aura. The aura emitted by this cold man was shocking and completely covered everyone present. Even the aura of Tai Ta and the 9 Temple Saintess was completely covered by him. He stood there with a cold expression. He was like a death god. Underworld Emperor. It's the Underworld Emperor who is ranked 3rd on the true saint list. The surrounding experts could not help exclaiming when they saw Ling Ju. Underworld Emperor was an expert who had suddenly emerged after the opening of the Blood Wave realm. However, even though he had suddenly emerged, his terrifying strength still shocked everyone. It should be known that before the true saint list, Light King ranked 1st, Saint Devil Sun ranked 2nd, and 9 Temple Saintess ranked 3rd. During the battle between the 3 saint realms and Jian Wushuang, Di Hao and Light King proved that Di Hao was slightly stronger than 9 Temple Saintess because Di Hao should be ranked 3rd. However, since Underworld Emperor fought in the Blood Wave realm, Underworld Emperor was immediately ranked 3rd, while Di Hao and 9 Temple Saintess were both ranked below him, and no one questioned this result. It was because the Underworld Emperor's strength was indeed terrifying. The battle where the Underworld Emperor became famous was when he challenged the Saint Devil Sun. In the end, he fought the Saint Devil Sun for close to 15 minutes. In the end, the Saint Devil Sun relied on his innate advantage as a special life form to barely beat the Underworld Emperor. However, after the battle, the Saint Devil Sun admitted that in terms of strength, the Underworld Emperor was not much weaker than him, and it was because of this that the Underworld Emperor became famous. Now, the Underworld Emperor and Tai Ta, one ranked 3rd on the True Saint list and the other ranked 13th on the True Saint list. These 2 peak existences appeared on this battlefield. Moreover, both of them were obviously interested in the Blood Wave token in the hands of the 9 Temple Saintess. Underworld Emperor, Tai Ta, I'm afraid that the 2 of you are late. The 9 Temple Saintess stood in front of the Underworld Emperor and Tai Ta with an indifferent expression. Late? I don't think so. Aren't you still standing here? The Underworld Emperor let out an evil voice. What? Are the 2 of you planning to snatch the Blood Wave token from me? The 9 Temple Saintess mocked. Although the 9 Temple Saintess was extremely fearful of the formation of the Underworld Emperor and Tai Ta, she was not afraid. After all, with her strength, she was not afraid even if she met the Light King directly. The Light King could at most crush or heavily injure her, but it was almost impossible to kill her. If the Blood Wave token fell into your hands before, we wouldn't have paid attention to it. But now it's different. The Underworld Emperor said in a low voice, the Blood Wave realm is nearing its end. Out of the 10 Blood Wave tokens, 7 have already appeared and fallen into someone else's hands. The one in your hands is the 8th one. In other words, if we miss this chance, we can only wait for the last 2 Blood Wave tokens to appear. But there are so many people fighting for those 2 Blood Wave tokens. Who knows who will get them in the end? You're right. The further you go, the lower your chances of getting the Blood Wave token. It's fine that the Underworld Emperor and I didn't manage to get it before, but since we managed to get it this time, we naturally won't let you go so easily. Tai Ta also spoke coldly. His voice was like thunder. 9 Temple Saintess, hand over the Blood Wave token. Otherwise, the 2 of us won't be polite to you. What a joke. Just the 2 of you want to kill me? The 9 Temple Saintess was also filled with anger. How would we know if we don't try? The Underworld Emperor smiled coldly and glanced at Tai Ta at the side. Brother Tai Ta, since this 9 Temple Saintess is so stubborn, why don't we join hands and teach her a lesson? If we have the chance, why don't we kill her? No problem. Tai Ta nodded and stepped forward. Watch me. As soon as he finished speaking, Tai Ta pulled out the mace behind him. His 3-meter-tall body was holding a 2-meter-long mace. There was a faint earthy yellow energy gathering on the mace. Then he suddenly smashed it out. Boom! The heaven and earth shook, and the huge mace directly smashed toward the Nine Temples Saintess. Before it got close, a shocking pressure spread out. The Nine Temples Saintess' eyes turned cold. The moment Tai Ta attacked, her soul attack had already swept toward Tai Ta. Her soul attack was extremely powerful. Among the immortal saints, it should be the first. Even if she did not use her strongest move, it was still extremely terrifying. It was enough to heavily injure the soul of an invincible saint. However, when this soul attack hit Taita, soul attack? Taita smiled disdainfully, but his body did not stop at all. The mace in his hand continued to crush him.